Good evening, everybody in Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome to the show on the Q&A. Matt Derrick here, as always. Don't believe we're going to be able to have Nick tonight. I'm hoping Nick will have time to return into the near future, but you've got me tonight. Little bit out of nowhere, like a thief in the night tonight with the podcast. Wasn't sure if I was going to make it at all, much less on time. 7:03 start, I think, is our official go. So we are actually live. I know I may have to banter here for a little bit as we get some questions in because, like I said, I didn't even post the live stream schedule because I wasn't entirely sure I would be able to make it. At least I've got Lutch. Thank you, Luttrell. I needed somebody to say hooray, hooray. It is Q&A day. So I was hoping that you would be able to get that in there. And you got the first comment with it, Luttrell. So thank you very much. I now feel like it is officially Q&A day. And I tell you what, I mean, I don't have it on in the background yet. I may have to, and I'm not encouraging anybody to leave, of course, the live stream to go watch the NBA on NBC. But as an old fogey myself, seeing the preview video here in Round Ball Rock, I am a little fired up. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the modern NBA. I miss the old days. So I'm a little bit of an old fogey, but I got nostalgia for that and hearing that. And hey, it took me in, so I'm gonna have to check it out. I mean, we'll see. I can't imagine it being like the old days with the people who were on the mic and the characters that are on the court, but I got pretty chills going up with that. A few things to talk about in Chiefs Kingdom. Obviously, the Chiefs made a little bit of a move today. Omar Norman Lott, as expected, with the torn ACL, landing on injured reserve, and the Chiefs signing Kevin Knowles from the practice squad up to the active roster. No surprise there. He was out of elevations from the practice squad. They had already used up their 3, so if they wanted to get him back up onto the active roster at any point from the practice squad, they were going to have to put him on the 53. So this seemed like just inevitability that it was going to happen at some point. The Omar Norman Lott injury gives them the ability to do that. Just a devastating injury with Omar Norman Lott. The Chiefs really liked the way that he was coming along, what he had shown so far. They feel like there's a lot of promise there. Obviously, an injury of that nature, we talked about it before with, big guys and Charles and Minshew coming off of a very similar injury. I mean, hey, Omar Norman Lott's going to be back sometime next year. I mean, that's just the way. I mean, and honestly, with ACLs the way that they are, and remember, very similar timeline to when Jared Wiley had his ACL last year. So, and he was obviously on the 53 roster beginning the season. Now, we haven't seen Jared Wiley yet, so that's a little bit of a, concern. But again, Charles Minshew, who came back at the end of last season and wasn't quite himself. And that's the thing with big guys and guys who are on the line, ACL injuries for skill players, receivers, corners, it seems like the return is a lot easier. For bigger guys, it just seems like it takes a little bit. It's not the recovery from the injury, but it's before you get all of that strength, all that explosion, all that pushback. And that's the thing that, I think you're going to have to wait for. And, and I had a conversation with one person in the organization that, we're talking about the fact that it might, for you to get back to what the Omar Norman Lott that you saw from a skill standpoint and from a ability and strength and power standpoint, it might not be until the 2027 season before you see that, his 3rd year in the league. And you hate that. I mean, it's just really disappointing because, like I said, the Chiefs were really encouraged by what they had seen so far from Omar Norman Lott and his performance. To lose him, it hurts. I mean, and obviously, I think we're going to get some questions about the depth there at that spot. Is it notable to me that they did not promote one of their defensive tackles, which they could have from the practice squad into that spot a little bit? Like I said, I think that, going with Kevin Knowles makes more sense because he was out of practice squad elevations. I have no doubt that with injuries starting to hit around the league, If they hadn't gotten some calls yet from teams that were planning on poaching Kevin Knowles, it was going to start soon anyway. He has just been too good and looked too promising for a team not to take a chance like that. So I think for a lot of reasons, the Knowles coming up makes a lot of sense. You've still got 2 practice squad elevations on both Broderick Martin and Marlon Tuipulotu, so you've got an option with both those guys that you can still bring them up and see what they've got. So they've got a little leeway there as far as what they do. And I'm probably not going to take any Josh Simmons questions tonight because once again, the reality is that we don't know that much. Everything that we know has pretty much come from Andy Reid. Obviously, there was the initial reports, may have come from the team, may have come from Drew Rosenhaus. I'm not going to assign those to either one, but you can assure yourself that the initial reports that came out on the day of the Lions about what Josh Simmons' issue was certainly came from one of those 2 camps. I'm not going to ascribe it to one or the other, but that was it. And obviously that's in reference to talking about it being a family and a personal issue. Chiefs have not really said anything differently. Andy Reid Friday did call it a family issue, but then when asked to follow up and to clarify, he said, well, personal issue. I'm still not 100% sure that, you can classify it that he was saying that it was one or the other or both. I personally think any family issue is going to be a personal issue. So that's the umbrella term. But that's literally all we know. We don't know anything else. And rest assured, you all out there have probably heard rumors and stories and speculation about it. I can assure you I have probably heard every single one of them and more. It's just the nature of the NFL. I mean, it's a gossipy type world. So people talk. Some people that aren't close to the situation talk. Some people speculate that's going to happen. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm not going to speculate on what I think it is. I'm not satisfied that I have been told by anyone accurately what it is. If I had been, I would tell you, and I would certainly, if there was something I could report it. But the fact of the matter is that nobody does. People in the organization will tell me and have told me and continue to tell me that there's a handful of people who truly know what's going on. And if it doesn't come from one of those handful of people, then you can bet that it's probably not correct, either in its entirety or everything in it is not correct. So just my 2 cents as a reporter and a person who I've obviously talked to Josh. I like Josh. Seems like a really good kid. You hear nothing but good things about Josh. I hope the best. I can tell you reporting wise, I know he's safe. That's one thing that I do feel comfortable in the reporting is that Josh is in a safe place right now and feels safe. That's not an issue. We'll find out everything else. If we find out anything else, it's completely up to Josh. It's up to him. It's a personal issue. I'm satisfied with that. I get that, people have questions about how it impacts the team. You know what? We'll find out about that later. Right now, doesn't seem to be impacting the team. I mean, they're playing winning football. So I don't think you can say that, Josh has been a distraction for this team or it's causing a negative impact or negative issue. So I say, as some of you in the comments are saying right now, and I completely and totally agree, just keep your thoughts and prayers for Josh and his family, that everything remains okay, that they get through whatever is going on. And when we find out, if we do find out something, we'll go from there. But I know that some people took what Andy Reid said on Monday during his Zoom conference with us. I think some took that as trying to shut down conversation and encouraging reporters not to ask. I didn't take it that way. When Andy's saying, we're moving on with that, I took that as the team. Andy hasn't said it, but one of his philosophies has always been that when it comes to sometimes things like this and, more of injuries and people's absences, we've had contract negotiations, things of that nature. a common refrain from Andy Reid is that he lets Brett Veach worry about that, and he worries about the guys who are there. And I think that's a little bit of what Andy Reid was trying to communicate on Monday. I think he was just simply trying to say, hey, he's going to worry about the guys that are on the field that he's got to coach and get ready for a football game, and he's going to let Brett Veach handle anything that's going on with Josh Simmons and his status. So I didn't take it as anything short with reporters or anything of that nature. I'm sure that we'll have a few more questions for Andy that pops up on Thursday will be the next availability, because with the Monday night game, team will be dark on Wednesday, so no interviews, no availability. You won't see anything there. Thursday is when all the normal press conferences begin, and then it's going to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday schedule. Sunday is when you'll really want to get in transactions on Sunday, because the Chiefs have until Monday. If they want to make any practice squad elevations, they can do them Monday afternoon. So that's kind of the schedule for the week. That's all I have to say about Josh. Like I said, I'm not probably going to take any questions later on about it, because I just don't think that there's a whole lot to be said. I think at this point, we've talked about everything that we know. There haven't been any new developments. When there are, we'll let you know. We'll talk about it and go from there. But in the meantime, we'll talk football. We'll talk everything else going on with this team. You want to ask me anything else about anything going on? Feel free. That's what we're here for, to have some fun on Tuesday nights, talking about some ball, talking about the Chiefs. You can ask me anything, and a pretty good chance I'll answer it. So let's give it a go and see what happens. And here I am right off the bat, recognizing that Dog Petter, who I missed last week for like 30 minutes on a super chat, that I feel terrible about. Here he gets one, gets it. I saw it immediately, Dog Petter. So bring in Colin Saunders and Harrison Phillips. I will never be anti-Colin Saunders. That is a good dude, and a good dude to have around. Not sure he's going to be made available via trade, but you'll never get me saying a bad word about Colin Saunders. I think that he's a really good teammate, really good dude. I know he's not making too much money right now. I mean, I know that the Chiefs had reasons for going different directions, and obviously they were trying to get a little younger and cheaper and all those things, and hit the wrong button. And Colin's only played once this year, so I mean, he should. I know he's been inactive a few times, so he should be available. I mean, again, the Chiefs just don't want to go back down that road. Even though I know they like Colin, they had no problems with him. Man, he got one of those incredible void deals too with Jacksonville. He's got void years out till 2029. Some teams love to do that. Base salary 1.17. I mean, here's the problem. Jacksonville thinks they're in the playoff hunt. So even if they would think that Colin is a luxury, somebody that they could possibly move, I mean, unless they're getting help for this year, they're probably not going to. What's Phillips' situation? I mean, because once again, you're not always going to see teams in this situation unless they're getting something else that they need, that they will make a move in season unless they're out of the playoff race. Now, Harrison Phillips with the Jets is out of the playoff race. He's got a potential out this year, so you wouldn't be tied to that $6.9 million that he's got due next year. Doesn't look like any of it is guaranteed. Nope. So the Jets would just have to eat the dead cap space, which they've got. He's got a manageable number. Let's see. Played in all 7 games, 7 starts. I mean, you know what? That's a doable player. Be interesting to see what the Jets would want for him. He's been very productive, reliable. I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. I think that one's a much more easily gettable player. And the Jets have a few guys who are going to be on the market, Dog Petter. So I mean, you can get me behind that. I'm not going to poo-poo that one. So I think that's a good suggestion. I'll have to investigate that a little bit more thoroughly and see what's going on there. He's represented by an agent that I know is good, has a good relationship with the Chiefs, so that's not going to be a problem there. Good suggestion. I like it. Let's see where we go from there. Chris, does the Sunday result end up on your Mount Rushmore of KC beatdown that you have witnessed? Witnessed in person? Yeah, I mean, it's up there. I mean, most of the games that I've seen in person, I've obviously been since I've been on the beat in 2016. I mean, I've seen a lot of other Chiefs games. I mean, not sure the count. It'd probably be probably a couple of dozen Chiefs games before that, but I can't really remember any that were major KC beatdowns. But and that was the year before was on the beat when we went down to Houston and won the playoff game. That would obviously be up there if I had seen that. Gosh, I mean, there was the Chicago game a couple of years ago in Kansas City. There's got to be a few that I'm just forgetting. I mean, got to be something else. I mean, that was one of a kind, Chris. I mean, shutouts don't happen all the time in the NFL these days. I mean, obviously, and maybe the way the Chiefs play, way Andy Reid plays, he's obviously not had too many. Most of the games that I have seen in Chiefs history are all, at least in person, are Andy Reid games. That would I'm gonna have to put it on the Mount Rushmore, Chris. I would have to do a lot more work to come up with what my other games on there would be, but yeah, you beat somebody 31-0 the way, and that was a generous 31-0. I mean, the Chiefs, if they wanted to, clearly, I think could have made it 41 without breaking a sweat. Probably could have put 48 easily. And if Andy Reid just, wanted to put the hammer down and let the backups have some fun, I think they could have put 50 up if they wanted to. So Andy Reid could have picked a number. He picked 31 and decided that was it, because he does not like to beat down people in the NFL, because, and not only just because he's friends with people, but also because he knows that, hey, things can always be different the next time around. And I don't know if necessarily he believes in karma or anything like that, but he does not want some other team out there thinking to themselves, "Oh, we need to put a beat down on the Chiefs and Andy Reid because they put one down on us." That game 31-0, it might make a few Raiders salty, but I'm sure there's going to be a few who are grateful and maybe a little thankful that the Chiefs didn't make it worse. Patrick, good evening, Matt. Good evening to you as well. Curious about your thoughts on Kristian Fulton. Is he trade bait? And they are keeping him healthy since he has value. I mean, why is Kristian Fulton not playing? I think it's a little bit twofold. I mean, this is the first week where you could definitely say that he was a healthy scratch, because it was the first time he wasn't on the injury report at all. Last week, he was still in the injury report, was a full go every day. So you could say he was a healthy-ish scratch. If you want to say he was a healthy scratch last week too, I'm not going to argue it, but this was the first time he was truly a healthy scratch. I think that there's a couple of parts with it, and that one, true depth chart wise, he's behind Noel Williams as far as the cornerback spot. Chiefs really like what they're getting from Noel Williams. They don't see anything in changing that rotation. The other player that he could replace on the active roster on game day would be Josh Williams. And Josh Williams is the exact opposite. Josh is not playing really any defense right now. I mean, he did get some snaps on Sunday in a mop-up role, but he's there for special teams. Kristian Fulton, you're not putting out there on special teams for a lot of reasons. One, he's a veteran. I haven't looked about the last time that he played special teams. It has probably been a while, but with his injury history and what you've invested, there is zero reason to put Kristian Fulton out there on special teams and expose him in any way. And honestly, I mean, Josh Williams is better at that. He is. He did play 13 special team snaps for the Chargers last year. He's played a handful over the years, 49 in his career. Looking at his special team snaps and not looking at them specifically, position breakdown, I'm assuming that and there's always a possibility he was put down there like a return or something, although he doesn't have any returns on his record. These look like maybe some field goal blocks or maybe some punt return, gunner type positions. It's not a ton. I mean, Josh Williams probably played more special team snaps this year than Kristian Fulton has in his career. So that's not really an option. So in the two spots, the two guys he could move ahead of, I just don't think there's any movement there right now. The other part of the problem is that, and this was the issue even before we got to this most recent injury, is that he had the injury that kept him out, the surgery that kept him out of OTAs, the cleanup that he had to have on the knee, that slowed him down going into training camp. Then he gets the ankle, slows him down again. He just doesn't have enough time in his defense to really be able to go out there and play at the speed and the level that Steve Spagnuolo wants right now. So could the Chiefs be kind of holding on to him as in case of there's a trade that could pop up? I mean, it would be very unlike Brett Veach to be in a spot where you'd see him just kind of waving the red flag this quickly into a contract. Now Fulton's contract isn't necessarily a deal breaker in being able to walk away early. I mean, he has a $6 million signing bonus, which you would eat. His 2025 salary is guaranteed in $5 million in 2026. Yeah. Okay. So there's some concerns. I mean, yes, you'd have to eat a good portion of that contract. 15 million of it was guaranteed at signing. So, I mean, if you walked away from Kristian Fulton right now, you're talking about, at this point, half a season of 15 million. I mean, if you moved on from him, you're getting out of basically the remainder of the base salary, which would only be about maybe 1.8 million in the kind of ballpark, maybe a little bit less. You're not saving a lot of money. So your feelings on Kristian Fulton, if you're the Chiefs, is that one, you like him enough that you still want to keep him around. You want him to be available next year, because I still think that the Chiefs were signing him as much for his availability to be a bridge guy for 26 as much as for 25. He having him on the under contract for 26, I think gives him a little flexibility. But hey, I mean, if you really don't think it's going to work and you think you can get something back for Kristian Fulton, that's the problem, is that I just don't know what the market would be. The one thing that teams would like, of course, is that he's relatively cheap. I mean, they would maybe be a little concerned about the guarantees on next year's salary, but I don't know. I am in the category of when you're talking about trading players, I tend to look at what the negatives in the value are, because I just know that player for player trades or player trades in the NFL, when you're trying to dump a guy, your returns are just not that great, because if you're trying to dump a guy, then the other teams know you're trying to do it, and they're not necessarily excited. I mean, the one thing I could really wonder about is if the Chargers would be interested in a reunion, and I can't imagine why the Chiefs wouldn't necessarily be interested in that. I mean, other than, you're improving a divisional rival, but if you can get away from a contract and get something back for them, and for a player who just hasn't worked out for you, maybe that's an option. I have no reason to believe at this point that that's what the Chiefs are thinking. It's a possibility. I still think that they want to try and get something out of Kristian Fulton, but he just needs some healthy time on the practice field, getting the defense under his belt, because that's the one thing he hasn't had between OTAs and training camp. He just hasn't had enough time in the defense. And that's why, I mean, I think you're going to see, barring any injuries, guys playing in front of him. But if you have an injury, I mean, yes, Kevin Knowles could be the next man up instead of him, but that's when and the Chiefs have been down this road. You get your depth challenged at corner pretty quickly, and Kristian Fulton would end up being a really, really valuable guy to have around. Kevin just wants to know, will the Chiefs make a trade for anybody? I mean, in this day and age, Kevin, I'm starting to assume that yes. Teams just make more trades than they used to at the trade deadline. Brett Veach is an active trader, so I'm assuming that he's going to try to make one. And probably interesting the way you say make a trade for anyone, because I do think that there's a possibility that the Chiefs might be in the market to move someone, whether it's for a player or for draft capital, because I still don't know that Josh Williams is a perfect fit on this team right now. I just don't know that he's got a real role. And even if guys get banged up, the Chiefs just don't seem to have a lot of faith in Josh Williams as a corner right now. And remember, too, they've got Najee Johnson that in theory could be freed at any time from the injured reserve. So I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to make a trade. They need to make a trade for someone because they're really challenged at depth on that defensive line now, and they need some help there. I still think they would like to get somebody at the cornerback spot or running back spot, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And that leads into Luttrell's question: how about that Brashard Smith guy? I mean, I know the average per carry numbers weren't great for him on Sunday, and part of that was because he had 10 carries in the fourth quarter where the Chiefs were clearly not trying to do anything. I mean, they were trying not to score. They were trying not to do anything out of line. So it wasn't necessarily put in some positions to make plays. Let's put it that way. But I still liked what we saw because once again, I mean, I think in the opportunities when asked to make plays, especially in the passing game, that 3rd and 13 screen that he converted, I think that was a great play. He was close to breaking that one. That could have been a big play. I obviously a big Brashard Smith guy, so I want to see more of him. The fact that you didn't see, I think, him make any mistakes on Sunday in that kind of mop-up duty, didn't put the ball on the ground, didn't have any issues like that. Those are encouraging. We didn't really get to see his vision or anything of that nature because he wasn't being asked to do that, but at least going out there and taking one for the team and running the ball 10 straight times and not looking like he was gassed or had any issues like that. I mean, it should have been at least a small thing that he could do to prove that he deserves more work going forward. And I certainly want to see that, and not just in the passing game, but out of the backfield too, because I think he can do some things. He's got the speed to pop something. K-pop lover, what's the odds the Chiefs trade for Calais Campbell? That's one of the guys I'm circling right now that I think just would make the most sense for the Chiefs. I mean, I get real, Calais Campbell type vibes with him and, or like I get Calais Campbell guys vibes from Calais Campbell, Terrell Suggs kind of vibes, as far as being a veteran who could really come in and just, give the Chiefs a little bit of what they need. I mean, Calais Campbell's 39 years old, so he's not going to come in and give you like 12 sacks or anything crazy like that. But he's a big space eater. It's what he's done his entire career. He's really good at it. He's a good dude to have in a locker room. You know that. It's just, hey, are the Cardinals ready to give up yet? And it's really funny because we were talking about all these different players. We were talking about Harrison earlier, all represented by Tom Condon, the same people, Tommy Condon. So maybe that's at least makes it easy. You can have one agent to work with. Not that you have to work too much with agents on deals like these, but it's always good to have in your hip pocket if you've got a good relationship with the agent, and the Chiefs do with CAA football and the Condons. So. I mean, hey, if you're Calais Campbell, why wouldn't you want to come and, try and win a ring with Andy Reid and the Chiefs? I think it'd be a good spot to be in. He doesn't cost a whole lot. His contract this year, base of $2.2 million. So if you're the Chiefs, 1.1, you got like $4.2 million in cap space right now. You could pick up Calais Campbell and somebody else. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Calais Campbell. So I think that, for what the Chiefs need, I think that would be a good addition. I mean, they need somebody that can play the run, that can eat up some space. If you want to get two guys for the price of one, go for it. I mean, if you wanted to both get Harrison and Calais Campbell, I don't think I'd say no, because right now the Chiefs have healthy D tackles. You got Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, and Derek Nottie. Derek Nottie is your only run defender in that group. Chris Jones is a run defender too, and I would absolutely say that right now, of those three, Chris Jones is your best run defender. But that's also terrifying if you're the Chiefs, because you would prefer him to be your three tech that goes after the passer and worries about the run second. But right now, you're really kind of having to ask Chris Jones to do both. So I unabashedly Calais Campbell fan. I think he would be a great fit, and they shouldn't cost too much. And I don't think how there's any way that it could go south unless he gets hurt. And even then, I just don't think that trade wise, value pick wise, I don't think it would cost you that much. Jesus, what team were you a fan of NBA team? So I am old enough, I guess I'll be aging myself here, that Kansas City still had a NBA team when I was young. So, of course, I rooted for the Kansas City Kings growing up in Springfield. I enjoyed, because that's the Otis Birdsong years. Was it Otis Thorpe too? Cotton Fitzsimmons, the coach. I'm trying to remember. There was the big, I think, center from Arkansas was on that team, right? Gosh, I'm forgetting all the names. And I always, every once in a while, I'm at Rally House, I see some old Kansas City Kings gear, and I think that would be a really cool pickup. That and the Scouts, the old hockey team, which I am too young to remember. I don't remember the Kansas City Scouts, so I'm not that old. But I was. Here's how I divided up my fandom, though, Jesus. I'm gonna be real for a moment. I was generally always Kansas City first, St. Louis second. Growing up in Springfield, my mom was more Kansas City oriented than she was St. Louis. She just didn't like St. Louis very much. So St. Louis was always second. But, NBA, Kings were my team. St. Louis Blues were the only hockey team in Missouri. So I liked the Blues. That was my hockey team. I grew up in Springfield. So, of course, Southwest Missouri State was a local college, Missouri State now, but always rooted for Missouri State, but also rooted for Mizzou because they was Mizzou, and I ended up going to college there. I went to both schools, actually, so I can claim them both. But I'm not going to lie. In most sports, in some sports, I would have a second team. Now, in baseball, my two teams, 1A and 1B, was Royals Cardinals. So that's not a problem. Football was Chiefs Cardinals. I was never really much of a Cardinals football fan, but here's the other thing, and this makes me a little bit of a bandwagon fan. But when I was really young, I generally obviously gravitated to the Kansas City teams, but I also, because some of the things that I rooted for local teams, they were bad. So now in baseball, there were no other teams. It was Royals and Cardinals. And then after the 85 World Series, strictly Royals. I don't care. I do not root for any other Major League Baseball team. I will be rooting for the Blue Jays a little bit because I just don't like the Dodgers, even though I like Ohtani. But that's a whole different thing. Now in the NBA, because I like the Kings, but the Kings weren't the best. I mean, they did go to like the conference finals one year, and that was nice. But I love Magic Johnson. So I grew up a Lakers fan. So that was my NBA team. It's still my NBA team, even if I'm not as passionate about it as I once was. So that's how those things roll. I have some other, that was the other thing. I mean, when I was a little kid, the guy that I thought was the coolest basketball coach in the world was Coach K. So, yeah, I am a Duke basketball fan, which I know is going to make me the bane of existence for a lot of you out there. So, sorry about that. Hey, the all chiefed up gang over here with the super chat. Appreciate that. Connor's slot coverage has declined to 16 snaps versus Detroit and 2 versus Las Vegas. Is Spags bringing in Knowles to help CRW because Mary Connor is moving away from that. I'll drop a like. Hey, appreciate you asking for the like there. From anybody who hasn't yet, I appreciate that. I mean, you're kind of in the right spot. I mean, here's the thing is that Connor's time in the slot is completely and totally dependent on how much time Trent McDuffie's going to stay in the slot. And that's a little bit dependent on just who the matchups are going to be that week. If they're in a situation where they feel like that they need Trent McDuffie in the slot more because they've got a tougher receiver in the slot, you're going to see a lot of Trent McDuffie in the slot, and you're going to see less Chamari Connor. And that means that you're going to need another corner on the outside. That has been, Noel Williams has been the guy that's kind of stepping up in that spot. Bringing up Knowles does give you the option now of either rotating between Knowles and Noel Williams. Maybe it'll be Kevin Knowles. I mean, they brought him up earlier and played him a little bit. I think that, Noel, here's the thing. I think that they really like Noel as being able to match up against bigger receivers because he's a little bit bigger corner and plays pretty physical. Knowles, I think, is a little bit different skill set. So if they're in a week where they would have a lot of packages where they think that they're going to have Noel Williams maybe traveling or at least matching up with, because I don't want to act like I didn't say traveling. I don't want to put it that way because I don't think he's going to be switching sides. But if they've got Noel Williams, it's going to be working against a bigger corner, and you're probably going to see, more of that. You're probably going to see more Noel Williams. If it's a smaller, speedy guy that they think that is going to match up there, you're probably going to see more Kevin Knowles. It's probably not really going to affect how they use Chris Roland Wallace that much, because I mean he's a safety. I mean, they're not going to use him as a lot as a corner. Again, I think the only time that you would really see Roland Wallace in a corner type position would be if he's on the field and Jamari Connor's not on the field and they're in a 2-corner set and they want someone other than McDuffie in the slot, then Roland Wallace will probably be that guy. But Roland Wallace is a really interesting kind of player. I mean, at least as far as how they're using him and deploying him. And all of this is really matchup and coverage dependent because right now, Spags and Dave Merritt have that secondary as just completely chameleons. I mean, they're playing different strategy schemes and coverages every single week. And it's not going to affect the playing time of a few guys. I mean, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson are going to be out there almost every single down. Even at safety. I mean, Shamari Connor is going to be out there every single down almost. It's because they love Shamari Connor. I mean, I see no evidence whatsoever that Steve Spagnuolo does not consider Shamari Connor to be their most valuable safety. I don't know about best. He might not say that, but he's the guy that they trust the most in the most different spots. So Shamari Connor is just going to play a lot. And I think you're just all going to have to accept it. But then the question is, hey, how much of Brian Cook do you get versus Jaden Hicks? And because we've seen those two guys kind of ebb and flow a little bit in their snap counts. We saw Chris Roland Wallace play a little bit more. I mean, those guys are going to be, and I would say really Hicks and Cook are matchup specific. Their 2 times are going to, their how much time they're on the field is going to ebb and flow a little bit based on who their matchups are going to be and who they think is the best situated that week. You're going to see more Chris Roland Wallace just when they're getting more dime sets probably. And there's maybe even some situations where they're playing a lot of zone and they want like 4 safeties or something crazy on the field. Then you're going to see a little more Chris Roland Wallace. The corners, I mean, that's again, I mean, it's very matchup specific. There's going to be some weeks where you are probably going to see a lot of Shamari Connor, maybe a little Chris Roland Wallace in the slot, and maybe not as much Trent McDuffie. That's been the trend. Now, you point out the last couple of weeks, they've really gotten away from Connor in the slot, and that might be the one exception now that if we see it in another game or two, then I'm going to be willing to accept that they've decided that Shamari Connor is better suited to just playing off the line and that he's better in the box or on the back end, and that you're not going to see him in the slot as much, in which case, then, yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see who they have in there to kind of relieve Trent McDuffie, or they just simply go to, all right, if you're in three corner sets, it'll either be Noel Williams or Kevin Knowles out there opposite Jalen Watson, and McDuffie's in there in the slot 100% of the time. Maybe they're going to go that way. And obviously when it's just 2 corners out there, it'll be Watson and McDuffie. The really crazy thing is that I feel like this secondary is playing really, really well, and they're doing it without necessarily having set roles for anybody other than maybe McDuffie and Watson. I mean, everybody else is kind of up in the air. I mean, their snap counts can vary. Their usage on the field can vary. The schemes have varied. So each of those weeks that it's been something different. I mean, there's a lot of different options. I mean, and obviously against the Giants, they played a lot of what looked like cover 4. It was really kind of split safeties, but they would have 4 if not 4 safeties on the field and close to it, or at least 4 guys playing safety on the field. It's been some interesting choices that they've made. Obviously, it's working, so you're not going to change anything. But I'll continue to watch it over the next couple of weeks going into the bye week, just to see how they continue to kind of adjust that a little bit. I think it's an interesting question, and yes, bringing in Knowles, I mean, it does give you some backup there at that corner spot. And like I said, I think it was inevitable too, just because that's the guy that they like and they want to keep, and they want to be able to use him, and they were not going to be able to since they already used up his practice squad elevation. So now they're good to go. So appreciate the support over here. Thanks for asking everybody to drop the like. I truly appreciate that. Hey, Seuss, why is Mahomes not doing a Head and Shoulders commercial anymore? I'll be honest, I hadn't noticed. I can't keep track of the man's endorsements. I'm not. I was gonna say I'm not paid to. I guess I could be paid to it if I just wanted to, have maybe a page on the website that was like, okay, here's all of Patrick's endorsements. I don't know. I guess maybe they didn't pony up the money. Maybe Patrick didn't want to do it anymore. I don't know. I'll put it on the list, Jesus, if I get a chance to ask him in the locker room. Probably not on the podium. I don't think I'm going to use that question on the podium, Jesus. But I'll try to run it by him in the locker room, see what the deal is. Maybe they're just in between ads right now. Maybe they're in between campaigns. So maybe they're saving up their money for a Super Bowl spot. I don't know. We'll see. Luttrell, do you think the Chiefs might use Fulton as a trade chip to free up some cap space relief and get a quality player for the DL? I mean, that's the tricky thing. And I mean, we talked about this earlier as a trade piece, and I touched a little bit on the cap number, but let's do a quick, shallow deep dive into the Kristian Fulton salary cap situation and how that might affect a trade. Because I'm not certain it's going to free up a lot of cap space. So right now, he's got a $7 million cap hit for this year. If you traded him, and let's just say it's at the trade deadline, I mean, you've already, at the trade deadline, you will have already gone through roughly half of his base salary. So that's like $1.8 million. I mean, for this year and everything, I mean, that's all you're really saving. I mean, you would free up $1.8 million in cap space. That's not a ton. Now, when you've got 4.2 now, I mean, that would take you up to $6 million in free cap space. You can't really necessarily use that all in one player. Would that be enough to get you Jeffrey Simmons? Not quite. And I have no reason to believe that. And let's face it. I mean, so far, the players that we're talking about at this point, I have not heard anything that indicates that the Chiefs have had any discussions about any of these specific players. You know, we're kind of all just conjecturing at this point, and I can tell you who would make sense and who would not make sense. I have had some people conjecture that maybe Jeffrey Simmons wouldn't be a great fit for the Chiefs because he is a little bit more of a head case maybe than they prefer. It's always a possibility. But Fulton, I mean, it's entirely possible. But again, you know, whomever acquires him is going to have to pick up at least $5 million in dead cap money for 2026. And, you know, because his contract has that 2025, you know, I told you earlier, it was $15 million of it gets guaranteed. $10 million dollars of it comes this year. If the Chiefs were to trade him, they would have like I talked about, you know, they would have the $5.2 million cap hit this year. They would save $1.8 million, and then they would have $3 million dead next year. So it's not a huge savings, and again, you'd have to have somebody be willing also to take that $5 million hit next year, plus his $9.75 million base next year. So I don't know. I don't know. He would be a great trade candidate. I'm not sure I see it. And, you know, and if you did, you probably wouldn't get much for him unless somebody's just really desperate at corner, which is entirely possible. But I'm just not seeing how attractive he is as a trade candidate, especially since he hasn't played. Nobody's been able to see him play. So until he gets onto the field, Your mileage may vary. So, um, I am okay. I'm going to break my rule real quick, but I'm going to go quickly lightning round on this. Really, I have no idea, Chris. I mean, it could come at any time. It could come weeks from now. Could come months from now. Who knows? I have no idea, and nobody else does either. So that's pretty much all I can tell you on that. And Scott's is more, hey, Jalen Moore is continuing to play good. And Simmons comes back. Should he just be handed the left tackle position back? That's a tough coach decision. I mean, it really is. I mean, and I think would obviously depend on how long Josh Simmons has been gone when he comes back. Jalen Moore is, if he's healthy, obviously, and in your scenarios, if he's playing well, I mean, it's hard to make that decision. I mean, I would expect that there would be serious consideration to letting Jalen Moore play for an extended period of time, and maybe he would keep positioned for the rest of the year. I don't know. I mean, still, the long-term goal, if you're the Chiefs, is that you've got both these guys on the field next year. That Josh Simmons is your left tackle and Jalen Moore is your right tackle. That's still the long-term hope and the long-term dream, and that was the long-term plan. We'll see what happens, but that's. I mean, you're talking there kind of a little bit, even though the situation is not nearly identical, but you are kind of talking about, the conundrum from 27 years ago, and that Marty Schottenheimer had. Do you go back to your starter Elvis Gerbach, or do you go with the hot hand and Rich Gannon that filled in while he was banged up? And I don't know if Marty made the right choice or not, but if your guy's playing well, as a head coach, it's hard to go away from that guy. So don't know if I have a good answer for you there, Scott, but that would be my answer, is that it's hard to go away from the guy with the hot hand. Luttrell, how would you rank the Chiefs' current left tackles where they rank against other Chiefs left tackles in the Andy Reid era? Interesting question. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, even though it's a short sample size, I think that what you saw from Josh Simmons early and what you're seeing from Jalen Moore right now, I think they're both as good as the Chiefs have had since at least Eric Fisher. And I don't think I've seen enough from either one of them from their body of work yet to move them ahead of Eric Fisher. Eric Fisher's been your guy most of the time. So can't really, put anybody above Eric Fisher. I was trying to remember, because obviously I know Fisher was their first pick, and I'm just trying to remember. Did he play? He played a little bit of right tackle. No, he just went straight to left tackle. I want to feel like he played a little bit of right tackle rookie year, but I'm probably blanking on that. And I'll ignore if there was anybody who kind of filled in. I know there was some injury replacements, and I'm not going to go with since I guess can't remember the guy's name, the backup from the Giants, and I think played Mike Remmers. There you go. I think he played left tackle. I'm not going to include him in the rankings, but I'd say Fisher one. I would almost put Simmons and Jalen Moore body of work at this point. I mean, I really do think that the best that you've seen since Fish. So I would put them at 2. Both of them obviously could eventually move ahead of Fish with long-term play, but because I think that they're both really good players. Then, gosh, I mean, then I guess you would, because then you're down to 3, right? I mean, essentially, I guess you could include Wanye and Kingsley, but I'm going to say neither one of them have really enough body of work. By that, I guess I should remove DJ Humphries too. So you're really just talking about Orlando Brown being next and Donovan Smith. I'd still probably give it a little bit of the edge to Orlando Brown. I mean, but I don't think that there was a huge difference between him and Donovan Smith. Donovan was okay, but I don't think he really solved anything. I don't think he's necessarily made this. I mean, I think they were both, very similar players. I mean, I don't think that they changed the offense dramatically. They were just different players and different guys. I know there's going to be a lot of, just not big fans of Orlando Brown and Donovan, played decently, but I just don't think there was a huge difference between those two guys. So, final answer. John, do you think if there's an injury to Moore or Taylor that the pressure to find out about will ramp up? Here I said I wasn't going to take Josh Simmons questions, and now I'm finding nothing about Josh Simmons. No, there's nothing is going to put pressure on the Chiefs ramping up anything about Josh Simmons. That is totally irrelevant. The Chiefs, with whatever Josh is going through, dealing with, they're going to let him deal with that, and there's nothing on the football field that will affect that. I'm 100% comfortable in saying that. I'm not quoting anybody telling me that. It's just based on the actions and words in the past of these folks and what I know about them. I don't think that anything that happens on the football field is going to affect anything that happens with Josh Simmons. So I think those two things are going to be completely separate. Scott's also on the Colin Saunders bandwagon. Yeah, it would have to be late. It'd have to be like, a 7th. I think that would have to be the fair market price. I mean, you're talking about a guy right now who's not playing regularly for Jacksonville, so he shouldn't be holding you up. I would not overpay for Colin Saunders, but sure, 7th to bring him back. I mean, I don't know if there'd be a huge downside other than the fact that he's not a fix. I mean, he does have some deficiencies in the game. So, and I think you would still say that he is probably a better pass rusher than he is a run defender, and that's what the Chiefs really need. But beggars can't be choosers. If you can get some depth and get an upgrade and somebody familiar with their system, that might push you over the edge for maybe a Colin Saunders versus some other maybe marginal candidates. We'll put it that way. Steven Demon said last week you check into the meeting of the players flapping their hands after catching the ball. What does it signify? Okay, I don't know if you saw this, but the Chiefs actually put out a video. I think it was today, might have been earlier in the week. But I was thinking of you, Steven Demon, because it explains this. So I know they put it out on Twitter. I'm assuming it's probably on Instagram too and everything. But it was from Xavier Worthy, who was doing after one of his celebrations this week. He was doing the 6-7 thing, which apparently is this nonsense, the 6-7 with your hands going up and down. And so he did that, and then they show him and on the sidelines talking about the Ravens celebration and him doing the flapping thing that he said he didn't know what to do, so he just did that against the Ravens. And then other players started picking up on it. I think not mocking, well, maybe mocking him in a friendly way, or at least imitating him in a friendly way. But they had the video of Chris Jones doing it, and Drew Trinkle was asking him about it. So there's your answer. We did get it finally. I tip my hat to the folks at 65 Toss Power Trap. So hopefully maybe somebody over there is watching the live stream and helped us get an answer to that question, Steven Demon. So now we know. And now I have a whole bunch of 6-7 questions, because I think I've been seeing that celebration on the practice field for a little bit. Either that, or I think Nico Remigio was a big fan of Major League 2. I'm not quite sure, but we'll get to the bottom of it. Chris, was Lott wearing knee braces? If not, why not? I'll be honest, I am not 100% sure. I know a lot of players do wear knee braces even if they have not had previous knee issues. I'd have to go back and look at some photos and videos specifically to see if he was. But again, I mean, the knee braces that they wear, they can certainly help prevent some knee injuries, but they're not going to prevent them all. They're not a panacea against, torn ACLs or patella tendons or anything like that. The braces can fail and you can still get hurt. So I don't know if he was or not. We can crack down on the video and take a look at it and everything like that. I can ask around with some folks too and try and get you an answer down the road, Chris. So I'll put that on my list of things to try and track down. So I don't know for sure, but like I said, I mean, talking to players about those braces in the past, I mean, it does give them a little bit more of a sense of confidence, and it gives them some sturdiness, but they're not 100%. I mean, you can still get injured in those, and you can still have torn ligaments, tendons, all of those things, even with the braces on. Let's see. Can you have Nick fill out an employee satisfaction survey regarding his participation? Do I need Nick to fill out the survey? Um, I think once again, Nick loves the Q&A. He loves coming on, and people get this bad idea about Nick that he's not happy when he's here. He greatly enjoys this. He appreciates all the fans, appreciates all the support that all of you do for me here on the Q&A, because there's a weird line. Some of you I know probably get it and some of you don't. I mean, the Q&A here is strictly a Chiefs Digest production. The podcast 41 is the mic is a KSHB production that I'm a part of, that they let me share on YouTube. So it's a great partnership for both of us. And Nick has always been kind enough to come in on his free time, and he actually enjoys it. The only part that he likes to tease me and kid me about the lightning round thing and about my time management, which once again, I'm doing a terrible job again tonight, despite my pledge to try and do better, doing a terrible job. But he loves every part of it. The only part that he doesn't love is the part where in my efforts to be a man of the people, I just need to do. My motivation comes from the late great Therese Paylor, because Therese, what I always loved about him was that he was a man of the people. He tried to do everything that he could that fans wanted him to do and asked him to do. He was so good at it, and his playfully playing the role of the people's champ. I don't use that phrase. I don't use the corporate champ thing either, even though it's in my mind all the time, because I'm on the one side. I would love to be the people's champ, but that was Therese. So I am never, ever going to try to vie for that title or ask for that title in any way. I just want to I try to be somebody that answers all your questions, that tries to be that guy, that tries to be open and understanding and do all of that. And then I always loved, Therese when he played the WWE heel about, getting the corporate click and then being the corporate champ. I love the way he did all of that. If in that regard, I feel like if there's anything, I'm trying to play the role of the people's champ. Nick is the corporate champ. I will never use those phrases again. This is the only time it's ever going to happen in the discussion, because those were Therese's words, and I am never going to take them away from Therese. Would never even dream about that. That's my motivation. And the only thing that really drives Nick crazy about the Q&A is the fact that in my effort to be the man of the people and answer all the questions, that when the question's asked at 7:02, that isn't answered at 8:01 and then gets asked again, so I hit the question again, that drives Nick up the wall. So if there's anything, it's not all of you, it's me. So, but Nick is a kind enough and gracious enough friend that he puts up with me with all of my faults and all my foibles. So that's why he's my brother. He's not really my brother, but he's my brother from another mother. So there you go. Let's see what we got next. Pete traded a quarterback for D-line help, Matt. That it's certainly possible. I mean, I'm never going to rule out a player for player trade. So who are you talking about there? You're really probably talking about, more than likely, if you're going to trade a cornerback, we talked about Kristian Fulton. The other one's Josh Williams. And I still think it's going to be tough to trade either one of those players without some background, without some plays, without some snaps. And unless there's somebody who's just willing to trade a similar type player for a similar type player. If your thinking is that Josh Williams and Kristian Fulton are two players who need a change of scenery, then you would be considering getting another player that's somebody who needs a change of scenery. I don't think that for either one of those guys, especially, Fulton with the cost that we talked about, Josh Williams with the fact that he's in a contract year, so he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, you're probably not getting anyone that's not in a similar boat. So, for Kristian Fulton, You might be getting a defensive lineman that's overpaid a little bit, or at least hasn't lived up to their contract and would be in kind of the similar position. With Josh Williams, you're probably talking about maybe getting a defensive lineman who's in year 4 that's in a similar position, isn't playing, isn't getting a lot of playing time, that you're just going to have to, you're kind of banking on a change of scenery being a good spot for them. But I think that the Chiefs, a little bit off their Joshua Uche experience last year, I think the Chiefs, if they bring anybody in that on the defensive line, I think they're going to want it to be somebody that either has some experience with the Spags system or similar system. I think it would have to be somebody that has been around for a while, like Clay Campbell. I don't have any problem him being able to come in and pick out things up in a hurry. I think they're just going to be kind of a little bit hesitant about, once again, putting a square peg in a round hole. I mean, they're going to want somebody that clearly just will do their job and understand it and do the right thing. And so, and kind of be able to pick it up. And, the Chiefs, like I said, last year, they might have been asking Uche to do some things that were just out of his comfort zone, and then kind of what he did. I mean, obviously, he's with the Eagles this year and playing pretty well. They're asking him to kind of do what he was doing with the Patriots. So it's understandable. I mean, the Chiefs kind of asking him to do a few different things, and it just maybe wasn't a good fit. So I bet if you're going to trade a player for a player, you're probably going to be getting a similar player in return. Now, for the Chiefs, I mean, right now on the defensive line, especially a defensive tackle, if you are going to get the equivalent of Josh Williams or the equivalent, the defensive line equivalent of Kristian Fulton, both of those would be a value and upgrade right now. So that's not necessarily a bad deal. I mean, at this point, the Chiefs' numbers, quantity might be more important than quality. Nikki, I knew somebody was going to bring it up, so I'm glad you did. What about Christian Wilkins? Too expensive? There's really two things that we don't know about Christian Wilkins, and the two main things we don't know. One is he healthy? I know the rumor before the beginning of the season was that week 7 was probably the magical line of demarcation about checking to see if Kristian Fulton's foot was healthy and he was ready to go again. So we're probably in that ballpark of finding out what we're going to get and what if he is healthy and ready to go. He would also at this point need a few weeks to ramp up. So that's worth considering as well. And the other thing we don't know is really the cost, because it's still a little bit up in the air what's going on with his Raiders money. That's still in dispute. The Raiders are trying to get out of paying some of that guaranteed money. If they're able to, then, and once again, I mean, that does not look like it's going to be decided anytime soon. That may be after the season. But I am certain that there are offsets in that contract. So, whatever, here's the thing that's going to be tough for Kristian Fulton. I mean, the more he gets from a team, it's right now, the less that the Raiders are going to have to pay him based on what I'm sure that there are offsets in his contract. If he settles for a minimum salary contract, and then later on an arbitrator decides, well, we think you were at fault for what went wrong in Vegas, so we don't think the Raiders owe you all that money now. Now Christian Wilkins has cost himself some money. So I don't know how much he's going to want. I mean, if he wants a league minimum, that is not going to be a problem for the Chiefs. If he wants like $8 million for the rest of the season, it's going to be a problem for the Chiefs. I think there'll be a problem for a lot of teams. So that's why I do think that he's probably going to end up signing for low base, sure, a little bit of an incentives in a contract. I mean, I would think that, once again, I mean, if you're Christian Wilkins, I mean, I think if you know that you're going to be signing for about the same amount of money, no matter which team you go to, since everybody's going to want to try and kind of offer you the same deal, I think you'd want to go to where the best deal and the best place to win is and kind of rehabilitate your situation. And I think that would be Kansas City, if Kansas City wants him. I can't tell you with 100% certainty that the Chiefs do. I know that they've kicked the tires on him. I know they've checked in on, like I said, about what his health would be and when he could be available. connect the dots yourself. They had Antonio Pierce, his head coach last year, had him at training camp, and you can be rest assured that they picked Antonio Pierce's brain on everybody that he coached in Las Vegas about what his opinions were of them. So I'm sure they have his take on Wilkins, and I think that would probably carry a lot of weight. So we'll see what happens. But I would not be surprised if he's part of the discussion. It's just obviously going to be, hey, when's he available? Is it possible? Is it going to work? Do you want him? Do you feel like he'd be okay in the locker room? All those things. What you really could do is just then, Micah or Doctor Who, is you go out and you look at all the guys that now that the Cowboys are trying to trade for and get those guys. Micah Parsons not available, but of course, Cowboys are trying to replace Micah Parsons now. So just go get one of those guys. I appreciate the joke, though. I did get it. Gary, do you see the Chiefs trying to get a free agent D tackle? I mean, outside of Kristian Wilkins, I don't know that there's anybody out there. I think that if there was anybody out there that the Chiefs thought free agent wise could help them out, I mean, I don't think Brandon Graham is just sitting out there waiting for the Chiefs to call him and everything. I mean, Brandon Graham going back to the Eagles today, I am sure that is about the only place that Brandon Graham would have gone, and might not have even considered it until the turnover that they had recently. So I don't know that outside of Wilkins, I don't know that there's a free agent out there that the Chiefs would think would be somebody would come in and just automatically help them and make them better right now. If that was the case, I think that player might already be here. And you might continue to rotate some guys. They've obviously had some guys on the practice squad now for a few weeks that they haven't rotated out yet, so I'm assuming that they like what they have seen so far. Daniel, how many trades do you think the Chiefs will make before the deadline? Interior really needs depth upgrades. Also feel like you need a real impact edge. And I'll be honest, Daniel, I mean, that's the thing, is just that because of the Chiefs' money situation, cap-wise, with just having $4.2 million in space. And I agree with all your needs. I mean, the Chiefs need one, if not two, I think, defensive tackles. I think they would like to have an additional edge. There's three spots that they could make. I don't know if you're going to be able to make three trades on the defensive line. Two is probably a good number if you're the Chiefs. And if one of them was a free agent, I mean, if you decide Wilkins is your guy, then one trade would be enough. I still think they would be on the lookout for running backs, although I think the Omar Norman Lott situation probably makes getting a running back done a little bit more difficult. So now you're probably banking on either Elijah Mitchell kind of breaking through and maybe getting more comfortable with his injury and being somebody you can lean on in the second half of the season, or Brashard Smith stepping up and being one of those guys that you can rely on in the second half of the season. I think that's a better bet than just suddenly finding a diamond in the rough from the D tackles and the D linemen that you have on the practice squad. So, but again, what's your definition of an impact edge? I mean, for the cost, going through my little exercise I did the other day of going through and looking at who would be the most productive for the money player who might be available. And a lot of this is, it's going off of what other teams, beat writers think with players that could be available. I mean, Arden Key was probably, with Tennessee, was probably the one that jumped out to me the most. And Arden Key is a good player. I mean, I don't know if you call it impact edge, though. I mean, he would be a rotational piece. He'd be somebody who would be for the Chiefs, probably, could certainly supplement with Ashton Gelati. Could probably be at least your 4 or a rotational piece, but give you 5 on the outside that you're really comfortable with. But is that an impact? I mean, I think if you're, I mean, at least if I'm talking about an impact, I'm thinking somebody who's better than Mike Dana. And no knock against Mike Dana, but or at this point, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Charles Omenihu, because Charles Omenihu has looked better the last few weeks. His numbers look better. It feels like that Omenihu might finally be pushing through that ACL floor, that ceiling that you got to, get through, and maybe finally turning the corner a little bit. I don't know if he is or not. If he is, then like I said, you're looking for somebody. To me, if you're looking for an impact player, you're looking for somebody who's at least competitive with those guys who are not better. And I just don't know if the Chiefs have the capital and the resources to go get that player. So I think that's going to be the challenge. Jesus, is Kareem good to go on Monday? It'll be interesting to see the first injury report on Thursday, Jesus, and where Kareem is. It wasn't entirely sure what happened in the game on Sunday against the Raiders. He came over to the sidelines, went to the medical table. They were looking at that ankle, lower leg. And really, it looked like the only thing that they did was give him a new tape job and go out there. And he played the rest of the game. Obviously, didn't play the fourth quarter, and they pulled everybody out. I would imagine that, hey, if you at least turn that a little bit, it's got to be sore. If it was just a tape job that was necessary, then maybe just something popped loose, the shoe came off or something, and that's why they fixed it all up, possibly. But if he's not on the injury report on Thursday, then I think you're going to feel great. If he's on the injury report in a limited basis, then I think you got to work under the assumption that, hey, he might have twisted or sprained something a little bit. But haven't heard anything. And like I said, the fact they finished out the game was a good thing. He's got an extra day of rest this week too, so maybe that will help. But let's keep an eye on Thursday and see what he is on the injury report. And yes, I know. Thanks to everybody for putting up with me, considering that even though I was going to try and do lightning round tonight, I'm obviously still answering questions at 7:25, 8:15. So Nick has again won. And saying that the Chiefs looking to trade for a D-line. Yes, I think that's the one assumption we can walk away from tonight. Is I can tell you the Chiefs are going to try and find some line help on the defensive line. Ever change your thoughts on the trade deadline? Josh Williams could be a trade contender, but seems like D-line makes more sense. Calais, Campbell, Colin Saunders makes a lot of sense. See, even though I know you asked this before I said all those things, see, we're on the same page here, Ever Changer. So, yes, ditto, 10 out of 10. No notes on the question. I'm completely with you. Tom, hey, Matt, thanks for trying to pin down the defensive coaches last week and evaluating Noddy's performance. Eagles only had 8 picks in the top 25, not 15. I know I was being hyperbolic when I was talking about the number of draft picks that the Eagles had. Now, they had more than that starting the draft. It's just that they combined a bunch of them because, they gave the Chiefs 1 to move up to 31. And they did that a few other places too. I think they started the draft with maybe 12 or 13. I could be wrong, but I know they made quite a few moves during the draft to do that. And yeah, Tom, I'm working on the story that if I ever get it finished writing, talking about just where the Chiefs are on the defensive line and what they need, what they're getting right now. Because I'll admit, I mean, there's some really hard disconnects with this team right now, in the sense that you look at the numbers and you look at the third-party grades like PFF that hates Derek Noddy. You look at the Chiefs interior and you're thinking they don't really have any run defenders, but they seem to stop the run. So don't know how to explain that. I'm trying to dive through the numbers and find a compelling story that will explain why the Chiefs can seemingly have such apparently poor defense at the point of attack and yet still manage to stop the run. It's fascinating to me. So that's my current mystery enigma that I'm trying to untackle here. Jason, another vote for Calais Campbell, I think here. And I honestly don't think it would take much. I mean, part of it, and remind me here, pull it up real quick just because I can't remember the standings off the top of my head. I always just think that Arizona is worse than they really are, but in this case, 2-5 is exactly what I thought that they were. I mean, they should accept that they're not going to make the playoffs. And even if they did make the playoffs, they're not going to be in the playoffs for more than about 3 hours. So they should be ready to, hey, let a guy like Calais Campbell go out and do what he wants to do. The tricky thing would be if this does end up being like a Terrell Suggs situation, they don't move him by the trade deadline, and then like Calais Campbell is like, can you guys let me go? And then he has to hit waivers, and then the Chiefs have to hope that nobody else claims him. That can always happen. So I think if you're the Chiefs, yeah, you'd love to see if you can go out there and get. I mean, I think a guy like Calais Campbell would be a great fit for this team. I don't know if there's any interest, but he seems to be price wise, veteran leadership wise, everything that they need would be a great fit. Because, I mean, a big part of it, I think, is going to be up to Calais Campbell. If he wants to get out of Arizona, I think they would certainly accommodate him. And the price, because 1 year deal and low salary, it should, for a 39-year-old, they're not going to hold you up. I mean, that would be a late day 3 pick, I think, at worst for Calais Campbell. Nikki, is Bo Nix for real, or did he just stumble into that win, etc.? I am probably a bad judge about Bo Nix because he's just one of these quarterbacks that I just don't have confidence in. I mean, and now sometimes I'm right. I mean, I'm often questionable at best. Didn't think that the Chiefs would be going up to 10 to get Patrick Mahomes. So, I take that all on that one. But I'm occasionally right when I think I can identify guys who hit a ceiling early. And that's what I feel about Bo Nix. I mean, I really feel like last year at the end of the year was probably about the best that Bo Nix can play. And I just don't know that he's got a lot more in him than that. But I felt the same thing about CJ Stroud. I mean, I think that the question is when you've got quarterbacks that you're not asking them to win you games. You're asking them to be game managers. And Houston did that with CJ Stroud as a rookie. Sean Payton last year just was asking Bo Nix to just be a game manager, especially when they would kind of dumb things down in the second half of the season. I mean, they were not winning games because of Bo Nix. I mean, they were winning games late, and they made the playoff run because Bo Nix wasn't making the same mistakes in the second half of the season that he made in the first half. CJ Stroud, as a rookie, great year, but the reason he didn't have turnovers and mistakes is because Houston did everything they could to minimize them. Question is then when you ask those guys to do more and to win games for your team, which they're going to have to do if you're going to be a good team, can they do it? I mean, Bo Nix, give him credit. I mean, they won that game. They had to come back with 33 points in the fourth quarter to pull it off. But I also saw 3-4 weeks ago, the Chiefs beat this team pretty handily. I mean, and that was the Chiefs team that hadn't quite fixed itself yet. I mean, that was a Chiefs team that was, I think, still looking for itself. Although in the second half is when that Chiefs team really started getting fixed a little bit. This is a bad Giants team. So I know and that was, I'm trying to remember, that was on the home of the road. I guess now I'm blanking on it because I think that game was in Denver, right? I mean, that's just not a team that you should be struggling against. It's not a team that you should be having to have a last 30-second drive to beat. And I know the Chiefs, hey, they lost to Jacksonville, and I'm never going to be able to explain that one when this thing's said and done. And if the Chiefs are Super Bowl champs at the end of this year, I'm never going to be able to explain that Jacksonville game. Other than weird things happened in Duval on Monday night. I mean, that was like the biggest regular season game in Duval history, just about. I can't explain it, but I don't think Bo Nix is for real. But I guess I'm on an island on that one. There's not a lot of people out there with me. Nikki, if you want to be on the island with me, you're welcome. Everybody who wants to take the USS Minnow out to get on the island with me, I will welcome you. I'll make sure we all have coconuts and hammocks and all that kind of stuff. D Jones, if a team wanted Gardner Minshew, do you think the Chiefs would even entertain it? I doubt it. And and this is another story I'm kind of working on, because I asked this in the off season, and I didn't get. I was wondering if in the off season that the Chiefs purposefully went out and got Gardner Minshew, for what he would bring to the quarterback room and helping Mahomes be more aggressive. And and Brett Veach and Andy Reid and didn't really seem to lend much credence to that theory of mine. But I talked to Gardner last week, a week or two ago, about the quarterback room and the discussions that go on in there, and I do think it's different, and I do think that it's something that's changing Mahomes. And I'm gonna certainly going to ask about it with Patrick this week. You might hear it at the podium. I might have to try and grab him in the locker room on Friday. Who knows? But I kind of want to, see with him, with what Gardner kind of does, because Gardner's he's a gunslinger like Patrick. And the last few years, Patrick had game managers in that room with him, and he became more of a game manager. And I just don't know. I just wonder if it helps having a guy like Gardner Minshew, who is going to feed into his instincts to be more aggressive. And when they're looking at film, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, this guy, that's a tight window, but you can get there, you can hit that. Why aren't you taking that throw?" I don't know if that's what's being discussed. It certainly feels like, and certainly from the conversation I had with Gardner, I certainly get the impression that Gardner feels like he's got the ability to say that in the quarterback room, to let his thoughts kind of be out there. And obviously, Gardner doesn't want to go anywhere. I think this season, learning from Patrick and from Andy, it is a master class in playing quarterback. So he wants to be there. I wouldn't blame another team if they wanted to try and go get Gardner, but I think that the Chiefs would not entertain it, because I think that, once again, if they had to play 3 games without Patrick Mahomes, they feel like Gardner would give them the best chance to win. I know they like Chris Oladokun too. I like Chris Oladokun, but I would even say I think at this point Gardner gives them a better chance. If they had to play 3 games without Patrick, I think they would still want Gardner around for that. Tom, keep it simple, Matt. Get Calais Campbell. His prorated salary will be about 1.7 for the rest of the season, lining up 93 next to 95, about 40 snaps a game. Sounds great. We got a bunch of people on our side, Tom. I think the Chiefs Digest crowd is pro Calais Campbell. If anybody wants to offer the compelling argument, I will get to it eventually. It's 8:26, so I'm still at the questions at 7:31, but I will get to it eventually. So if there's anybody who's against the Calais Campbell trade, speak now or forever hold your peace. About John saying, imagine they said Pennell was too old and then trade for Campbell. Yeah, no, I get the irony there. I get the irony. Brian, how dare you start without me? Brian, the question is, why weren't you here when I started? How dare you not be here when I begin things? But no, Brian, I'm sorry. Nick won't be here tonight. But yes, I do appreciate you. You were not the first person tonight to suggest that people hit the like button. But Brian, it would not be a Chiefs Digest Q&A without that. And Nikki, you're right. The St. Louis Zoo is great. I like the Kansas City Zoo too. It is a much better zoo than it used to be. So I'm pro Kansas City Zoo, but St. Louis Zoo is pretty cool too. So not going to get any argument from me there. Jesus with the super chat. Greenlaw from the Broncos gets suspended for 1 game, but 40 actually slapped the back of the same ref. Greenlaw went after. Thoughts. I certainly got the impression that, it was less about the contact that the other guy may have had, and more that Greenlaw verbally went after the official. And remember, the game was over. That's the other part of it too, is that the game was over and Dre Greenlaw had some thoughts that he wanted to get off his chest. And that's, I think that's was what the officials were wanting to discourage. And we've seen this now in a couple of weeks in a row. I think it was the exact same thing, honestly, in a different form, but with what Brian Branch did. Because remember earlier in the season, as we learned with Tier Chart and Travis Kelce, apparently it's not a suspendable offense to slap a guy with an open hand. You just can't punch a guy. Brian Branch slapped Juju Smith-Schuster, but it was after the game. And yeah, I mean, I think that was if Greenlaw had voiced what he did maybe during the game or did it a little bit less vociferously, then I don't know that he would have gotten it. But I think the NFL, and I don't know that I think that different decisions, and I don't think that there's a concert to it. I think it's just more of a coincidence. But I think they were bound and determined to suspend Brian Branch because they cannot allow players to smack each other after games and even slaps, even, which are, like I said, if apparently based on the way that the NFL interpreted the tier chart Travis Kelce in exchange, apparently if you slap a guy with an open fist, it's a 15-yard penalty. Now maybe if it had been during the game, they would have given Brian Branch 15 yards. Would he have been suspended? Not sure, unless it sent off the same kind of, scrum that it did. Maybe that was the Chiefs' problem. Maybe hey, once your chart slapped Travis Kelce, maybe the Chiefs just all should have gone after him and caused a fight. Maybe that would have got him suspended from the game. Maybe that would have gotten him kicked out or suspended for a game later. But the NFL wants to make sure that there's nothing going on after games. They want the officials to be safe after games. They don't want teams fighting after games. So I think that's why Brian Branch got suspended, and I think that's why Dre Greenlaw got suspended. I think he got suspended because the NFL wants to send a message that, especially with the referees, that the referees are untouchable, and that is verbally and physically. So yeah, I don't know if the slap was as significant as Greenlaw, just as vocally going after the official as he did, and probably using the language that he did. I think that probably got him into a lot of trouble. So I think that was the bigger issue. I mean, and once again, had Greenlaw done that during the game, maybe just gets 15 yards and doesn't get suspended. But doing it at the end of the game, in concert with everything that was going on and creating a hostile kind of situation for the officials, I think the NFL is going to protect their officials every single time. Joe, appreciate the Tiny Archibald, definitely on those old Kings teams. Sorry, I forgot about Nate Tiny Archibald. Good call. And Jesus, thanks again for the super chat and question there. Greatly appreciated as always. Alex, can you please find a way to convince Aaron Donald to interfere and play? I guess you're talking just come back as Aaron Donald and play next to Chris Jones and retire. There you go. That's the word I was looking for too. I mean, Aaron Donald might very well do it. I mean, it would probably for the rest of the season, I'm guessing, cost you $20 million. I think you do it on a prorated basis. So probably not going to happen. So. Joe, I don't know if I have a great knowledge of sports, but I have as my baseball coach who cut me from the team and slash English teacher slash broadcast teacher in high school said I have incredible knowledge out of left field. So I can always be proud of that. Tyler thought the corresponding roster move to Norman Lott was interesting, considering Chiefs already had a good corner that's inactive every week. Fulton, did it surprise you at all? And no, like I mentioned at the top of the show, it really didn't, because Kevin Knowles is a player the Chiefs really like, young guy, undrafted rookie free agent. They feel is kind of found money a little bit. I mean, I don't want to put too much like saying found gold. Could he be a Charvarius Ward type? I mean, the same situation, really. Undrafted free agent corner that they really, really like and didn't want to lose. So he had already maxed out his practice squad elevations. If they wanted him to be with the team the rest of the season, they were going to have to put him on the 53 at some point. I also imagine that if other teams had not come calling this week, they were bound to, and I'll check around and see, but I would guess that maybe that had already started to happen, that the Chiefs knew that there was a team that was interested in signing him to their 53 off the KC practice squad. So that's when you make this move. I mean, the Chiefs did the same thing with Najee Johnson, I believe it was his rookie season. They waived him and put him on the practice squad. And then I believe it was later that rookie season when another team came calling. Could have been a different corner, but I'm pretty sure it was Najee. It could have been. You know what? It might have been Echo Boydo. Now that I think about it, might have been Echo Boydo. But a team I know it was the Raiders came calling, and the Chiefs were like, "Yep, we're going to go ahead and put you on the 53 because don't want to lose this guy." So no, it did not surprise me. I figured it was going to happen eventually. It was just going to be when the roster spot came along, and the Chiefs still have practice squad elevations for Broderick Martin, Marlon Tuipulotu, Zach Pickens, anybody that they got in the practice squad. So they've still got practice squad elevations they can use on those guys until they kind of figure out what they're going to do at defensive tackle. And obviously we got 2 weeks until the trade deadline, so something could happen then. John, you I know, once again, I know you asked this. It was really, really relevant before I talked about it 45 times. But put me down. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to do their best to try and trade for a defensive lineman. John, you were also talking about Royals. Are you wanting more Royals, or are you wanting to trade him? The Chiefs are definitely not trading him. They're going to hold on to him, but you're going to see some more Royals. He's going to be one of those guys that's just going to be some maybe specific things. It's entirely possible with Rasheed Rice coming back, though. I mean, at some point he might be inactive. It's just depending on some things, but because there's not a lot of the offense that's built for him right now. I don't think it's not a bad thing. I mean, having depth, and so the guy like that is a depth piece. And I mean, I said all along, I thought that Chris Conley rookie year was the most appropriate comp for what I expected from Jalen Royals this year. I think Conley had like 199 yards, something like that. Royals may or may not get there, but I mean, if that's what he puts up this year, especially after starting the season with the inflammation in his knee, and now with everybody back in the depth that they have, it doesn't worry me. I mean, Jalen Royals was always going to be a project for this year. He was never. I mean, if Jalen Royals went out and had an 800-yard season this year, then that was going to be telling me that like 4 guys got hurt, and that's not a knock on Jalen Royals. It's just the reality of the situation. So, the fact that Jalen Royals has got just a time to learn and to learn from some really good guys ahead of him, it's only a good thing. So, not going anywhere though. Joe, can the Chiefs even trade Fulton without hurting team after all team could get cornerback injury? I mean, again, I see the point that you do, which is that you can get injuries in a hurry. You can get down a couple of guys. They do have some reserves. I mean, obviously, you just brought up Kevin Knowles. You got him. You got Najee Johnson on the injured reserve that can come back at any time. But hey, your depth can get challenged really quickly. So I'm not convinced that the Chiefs are holding Kristian Fulton out for some trade bait or anything like that. I mean, if anything, they would have, like I said, I think they'd have to play him in the next 2 games quite a bit for me to be convinced that they're using him as trade bait. If he is inactive in the next 2 games, then I think you're telling me once again that he has missed so much time between OTAs and training camp and now part of the season that he's just not enmeshed enough into the defense and picked enough things up that he can be effective on a regular basis, and that they're more comfortable with other guys like Noah Williams, like probably and Najee Johnson eventually, but Kevin Knowles. I mean, they're more convinced that these guys have been part of the process enough and are enmeshed enough into the defense that they're better solutions right now, just because Fulton's still got a lot to pick up. I mean, I don't even know what you would describe it. I mean, it's basis as far as how little time he had on the field during OTAs, and then it kind of started camp, ended camp in kind of a bad spot. I mean, I don't even know what you'd call. I mean, he didn't have essentially a full either OTA or training camp combined. I mean, he's missed a lot of installs and a lot of periods as far as just picking up the defense and learning everything. So I think that's the challenge. Everchanger. This has not been answered, so I'm glad you brought it up. But any Trey Smith news on his injury? I have not heard anything yet. Andy, when we had our Zoom on Monday, they kind of purposely held that before the injury news came out. So at that point, we didn't even know about Omar Norman Lott. But Andy said that his back locked up on him and that they were, after the game on Sunday, and that they were hoping it wasn't going to be anything serious. I believe by now we would have been told if it was anything serious. My impression on Sunday was that they were pretty positive that everything was going to be okay. I saw Trey in the locker room after the game. He didn't talk about the injury, but, didn't look like he was encumbered in any way. So that's not necessarily a key indicator. But the fact that we haven't heard anything, obviously Thursday will be important. We'll see what he is on the injury report. But I'm pretty optimistic. I have not heard anything bad news wise is associated with Trey and that injury. So. And I think it was notable that Andy didn't even mention it at first. His was the one I believe he didn't even mention at the beginning of his press conference on Sunday, and that's usually a pretty good indication that it's nothing that they consider to be too serious. Now we're getting into the part where I definitely started problems with the Rich Gannon Elvis Gerbach conversation. Was Elvis? Yeah, it had to be Elvis, right? Wasn't the other guy, who I'm also not blanking on his name. No, it was Elvis. The other guy, I'm thinking of Steve Bono. I was having Steve Bono flashbacks. Elvis was much better than Gerba was than Bono, but yeah, Rich Gannon was better than all of them. Pano, a lot of buzz about Chiefs trading for Alvin Kamara. Your thoughts, and can the Chiefs afford it? Alvin Kamara is an interesting one, and I'm trying to remember because I think the trick is that his base salary this year, not a problem at all. You would look at that contract, if my memory serves correct. Yeah, because his base salary this year is $2.6 million and some change. So basically, at midseason, you'd say prorated version will be about $1.3 million if you made the trade at the trade deadline. Doesn't sound too bad at all. Problem is that he's got an $11.5 million base salary next year that has fully guaranteed. And I don't care how good Alvin Kamara is. I'm not carrying a $31 million running back in 2026 on this team with an $11.5 million guaranteed base salary. That's just, that's more money than your entire backfield's making right now. So I can't, for that reason alone, see it. I mean, and unless Alvin Kamara wanted to agree to something crazy, like, having that de-guaranteed, which players just don't give away money, and I wouldn't ask him to, I would not touch that contract with a 10-foot pole. And I mean, Alvin Kamara is a nice player, but when you discount the fact that he's going to be coming in, and I get, he's run a West Coast offense, so maybe the drop off won't be as severe, but I have got just too many scars from this team bringing in offensive skill players at midseason who just do not fit in and can't find a way to fit into this offense and make a huge contribution. I mean, you take a 50% haircut on Alvin Kamara's production, and I just don't see it. And then you're talking about next year at 31 and 11.5 million. I mean, this team already is, trying to find change under the sofa cushions to be able to have cap room for next year. So I'm not doing it. I get it. It makes sense. There's going to be a lot of speculation. I assume that a lot of the people who talk about what a great idea that Alvin Kamara and the Chiefs would be, just don't realize and understand that his base salary for 2026 is already guaranteed. Because I don't know why anybody would think that it's a good idea to trade for a running back that has $11.5 million. I mean, if it was Saquon Barkley, coming in that had $1.8 million of base salary due and was 11.5 next year, okay, we'll talk. We'll make that trade. But I mean, Kamara, I just can't do it. Nope, can't do it. D. Jones, do you think Nagy will be a head coach next season? I think there's a really good chance. I mean, obviously, the most likely place is Tennessee, and I can see it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Now, Mike Borgonzi, the general manager, is not the sole decision maker. His boss is Chad Brinker, but on the football operations side. And those two guys are working in concert. I mean, it's kind of a double-headed monster there. And I know Mike and Chad are really good friends, and they go back a long way. So I don't think that's going to be any issue when it comes to hiring a new head coach. And I think Matt would be actually a really good fit there, certainly with the organization that they look to build. And I think the players that Borgonzi likes, obviously I think that would be one of the guys on Mike Borgonzi's short list anywhere he was general manager. There might be a few other places that open up that maybe Matt would be a good fit, but I think that would be the most obvious place. I mean, the only other reason I think if you're Matt Nagy and you stay in Kansas City is because you think that Andy Reid's going to turn over the reins to you here in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't know if that's the case either. I don't know if that's necessarily. I mean, Andy signed for 5 more years. I think it's through 2030. So if I'm Matt Nagy, I don't know if I want to wait around 5 years, but we'll see. But I do. I think there's a really good chance that he gets a head coach job in the offseason. Obviously, there was a lot of heat around him last year, and I think Tennessee would be obviously the most logical place. Jimmy's, did the media succeed in its mission to ask each of the 53 guys on the roster how they feel about Rice's return, or do we have some stragglers? Can we slow the roll, please? I think we did. I think we probably did. I mean, there might have been a couple that we missed, but that was, I tell you what, though, here's the deal, Jimmy's. I mean, and I say this even though, there's parts of the Chiefs locker room that are far apart. And now also because they built this like extension that they used to have in there just for the preseason because they would have so many players, but now, they got larger practice squads and then you got IR. And I think that the team is trying to block the basketball court too. So they got that extension in there even longer. So I think there's a little bit to it that the parts of the locker room are separated. So it's not like everybody's together in one spot. But I'll say this, if you watch that video in the locker room of the team's reaction when Patrick, was like, where's 4? And, Rasheed Rice comes sliding in with that big smile and does the 1, 2, 3 family. I mean, here's the crazy thing. I know Rasheed Rice has a reputation based on what's happened off the field. And I think that he also has in the past probably been a little bit uncomfortable on the podium, even as a rookie before anything happened. And certainly, I mean, after the things that happened, a few times that he talked to the media, I think he was a little uneasy. Last week when he was talking to the media was the most comfortable I've seen Rasheed Rice in a long, long time off on the podium. And that's not the guy. I mean, that's closer to what you saw last week in the podium. It's closer to the real guy that you get in the locker room, because this guy always has a smile on his face. I mean, he is just the happiest go lucky guy that you're ever going to see. And that's why this team loves him. I mean, to a T. And that's why I'm not exaggerating when I say that, and saying that if all 53 guys in that roster probably do have a opinion about Rasheed Rice and what it means to have him back, because he is one of those, he is not an energy vampire. He is an energy giver. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in that locker room who does not have a hardcore feeling about Rasheed Rice, and that hardcore feeling is very positive because they just love the guy. And I don't want to get too far afield because I mean, it's not like I know Rasheed Rice. We're not buds or anything like that. I mean, I'm a reporter, so all I've done is talk to him a few times and some scrums. I mean, we've had a couple of, quick conversations about some topics, but I can't really say anything. And so I don't know what he's like, off the field or anything like this. I can't make any of those, conclusions. But I will say that I feel like that in a lot of respects, Rashee Rice's reputation has been really defined in the public eye based on what happened in that accident. And there's legitimacy in that. If you want to, if you have hard feelings about Rashee Rice because of what he did and the actions that he took, I'm not going to defend him. I mean, that's not my job. And I think you're entitled to feel that way. But does he strike me as a guy that probably did something that a lot of young people do and don't have the misfortune of causing an accident? Yeah, I mean, and he doesn't seem like but he also, again, and this is probably something I shouldn't say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Maybe because I've been on here, I've lost all my stop muscles today. I mean, I think obviously this has been around. I'm sure. I know everybody's talked about it. I am sure that there are people in Rasheed's orbit, in his circle, that he just should not hang around. That they're probably bad influences. I know when I was a kid, I had people that I hung around that were bad influences. Now, luckily, they never got me in too much trouble. I think the worst thing I ever did was probably to drive like 75 in a 35 zone in a residential neighborhood. Should not have done that, and I'm lucky I didn't kill anybody. Now, Rice obviously did something, a little bit scarier. But I don't know. There before the grace of God go I guess, is, my mother always said. Like I said, I have no problems. Anybody wants to have strong feelings about Rashee Rice. And Jimmy's, I know this wasn't really your question, and I'm just kind of on a tangent here about it. But like I said, I mean, it's a really easy question to ask because, like I said, there's nobody in that locker room that doesn't have, I think, strong feelings about Rasheed, and they seem to be 100% positive because they just seem to really like the guy. Pano, what's the extent of Trey's injury? What the defensive tackle would you like the Chiefs to get with Lott out? Like I said, we'll find out on Thursday for sure. If I hear anything earlier than that, obviously I'll let you all know. But it doesn't appear to be anything serious at this point. Omar Norman Lott with his injury, I mean, there's a couple players out there. Philip Harrison from the Jets that I can't remember who brought up earlier. I need to go back and look at that so I can give you proper credit. It was a great suggestion. I wouldn't have any problems with that. Calais Campbell's the one that I think I'm most interested in. I'm sure that I know for a fact that Brett Veach and his staff is going to be digging into every possible available defensive lineman and defensive tackle in the league right now that they could possibly land. So there may be some people that I'm not even thinking of. And, like Juwan Briggs that the Jets got from Cleveland before the season was a player that the Chiefs were interested in. He's having a good year and the Jets are going nowhere. Maybe they're willing to make him available. There are options, but a lot to do in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. Pano, is Forsyth from the Raiders getting suspended for that dirty hit on Lott? I had a lot of people ask about that because obviously he drew the flag, and I doubt it. I mean, normally if there's going to be a suspension, it does come out pretty early in the week, like the Dre Greenlaw coming out yesterday. They've already done the appeal on Dre Greenlaw too, so that tells you how fast the wheels of justice in the NFL can move when they want to. He drew the flag. He will probably get fined for that, since there's usually a fine that accompanies that. So I wouldn't be surprised. But I'll admit it. I mean, I've watched that a lot of times, and I do not believe that the hit had anything to do with the injury. Every time I've looked at it, it certainly looked like that what happened to Omar, if they were still engaged, it's possible, but that was a clean play when they were engaged. It was when he fell on him in the late hit that was when it got dirty and when it drew the flag. And I think it's very clear that Omar Norman Lott was already injured. So crappy play, crappy move by Forsyth, absolutely. Deserving of a flag, absolutely. Deserving of a fine, 100% plus, absolutely. I would give him the maximum, but I don't think it caused the injury. So I think unfortunately it happened before that, and that's the more worrisome thing, because I don't think that they were engaged at the time. I mean, it looked like that knee just buckled and gave out, and that happens. I mean, it's terrible. It's unfortunate. I don't think that Forsyth caused it. I don't think he contributed to it. I think he had a little bit of misfortune of giving a late hit on a guy who was hurt, and that sucks. But he's going to get penalized. He's going to get fined, and I think that's the appropriate action. Alex heard rumor of Kelce's contract, I think is where we're going there, being restructured for $3 million on the cap. Did I get fooled? Now, it's, to my knowledge, nothing has happened yet. But here's the tricky thing with Travis, because, I mean, there's not a lot you can do with Travis. He had a roster bonus for this year, which, and it doesn't say, I don't see having a date about when it got paid out. Normally roster bonuses are paid out in March. Sometimes they're paid out later in the season, like sometimes in September, like at the beginning of week 1 or something of that nature. I don't necessarily see, and I'm now that looking at this, I'm wondering if maybe they did do that, and they freed up some spot when I wasn't looking, because I thought his base salary was higher than that. But let me see, because like I said, it could have happened when I wasn't either looking or paying attention. And then let me compare our different sources to make sure that we got everything accurate here. But yeah, I mean, and maybe that was converted to the roster bonus earlier and I'm just forgetting it. But he has a $4.5 million base salary right now. And he's got a $12.5 million roster bonus. That does, gosh, I'm wondering, I'm not seeing it. I mean, that hasn't been anything that I was aware of that happened recently. So I'm just wondering if maybe I just forgot about this, or maybe it did happen later or happened at another time, and I'm just not remembering it correctly. But I mean, and all of this is fitting with what obviously I mean, the Chiefs cap number has not dramatically changed at any point. I mean, they still have 4.2 million roughly in cap space, depending on your source. Probably a little bit less than that, because the 4.2 million number I see is from Spotrac, and I have been told that usually over the cap is more reliable, and over the cap has the Chiefs at 3.5 and change. So probably in between there, but probably closer to the 3.5. There's not a whole lot more that the Chiefs can do with Travis, and I mean, the roster bonus doesn't really make a huge difference, because once again, I mean, even if they had converted some of that base salary into a roster bonus, there's no new years has been added to the contract. So that's the difficulty. And if the roster bonus has already been paid out, you can't retroactively do that. So because he had that, I think I said 11.5, was that the right number I said? 12.5. So there we go. Let's work with the right number. If the $12.5 million roster bonus has already been paid out, which I would be. I mean, normally those things are paid out, like I said, in March, sometimes September. There's a rare one that's going to be in January or February or March, but those are very unusual. So I would assume that has already been paid out. If it has already been paid out, you can't retroactively move that into a future year. So all that Travis really has is that there's about $3 million that you could free up and push into a future year, but it would require adding years to the contract, which would mean restructuring it. And could Travis do that? Sure. Could they do that and not impact his future retirement if there is one in the future? Sure. I mean, really, the only thing you'd be talking about doing is taking some of Travis's money and taking the salary cap hit on it later rather than right now. Not sure there's, I mean, it's not enough money really, Alex, to make a huge benefit. So I think that they have probably done all that they can there. Always possible that there could be a little bit, and there's a couple of other contracts where they could squeeze out some more money, but the last significant conversations I had with anybody and with the team regarding, player acquisition, was just before the beginning of the season. And at that point, the Chiefs really weren't interested in adding a significant contract. So they weren't really looking to add anybody that was making $3 or $4 million. I mean, anything that they were looking for were going to be more affordable acquisitions than that. If you extrapolate that prorated based on the season, then you'd be looking at players who are really making no more than $6 to $8 million on an annual basis, as far as 1 year for this year. And obviously, if the Chiefs want to try and get more than one guy, those guys, I mean, they need to make even less money than that. That's why, like I said, a guy like Calais Campbell might make a lot of sense because you could add him and somebody else. I don't know if he's interested, but that's just one of the reasons why a player like him would be very attractive to me as just an acquisition. Even though I'm still answering questions from 801, I know the questions die off here in a little bit. So last call, if you want any questions answered tonight, I will stick around till the bitter end. And I'm trying to go faster, even though it doesn't sound or look like it. Jen, I thank you very much. I appreciate you. I do my best. Try to lead you astray. So you can, if I ever do, feel free to hold me accountable, but I always try to tell you exactly what I know and what I've seen, what I've heard. And I try to be your eyes and ears for you. I appreciate the kind words. Alex, has an offensive lineman ever converted into a defensive tackle? Sure. What? Khalil McKenzie that the Chiefs drafted. What? I'm trying to remember if he was a defensive tackle that they converted into an offensive tackle, and then when he went to Seattle, they converted him back to defensive tackle. I can't remember how that one all worked. I know that the Chiefs were trying to make him an offensive lineman. It did not work. And then he went to another team. But I mean, if you're talking about anybody that the Chiefs currently have flipping sides, like I said, I know it's happened before. I think the Chiefs even had somebody 20 or 30 years ago, I feel like, when I was much younger, that did that exact same thing. It's very, very rare. And usually it's because they've had some significant playing time in the past, whether it was high school or college. Maybe somebody who did play both ways or did the flip in college, where maybe they started on the offensive side, flipped to defensive side. I can't think of anybody that the Chiefs have on the offensive line side that would be a logical position change for that. I don't think they're desperate enough for that. I don't think the craziest thing I remember seeing the Chiefs do was that 1 week where they had so many injuries at safety that they had Marcus Kemp was their emergency safety, and he was playing safety in practice during the week. And he was prepared to play defense if they needed him, because they were literally like next man up at safety was wide receiver Marcus Kemp. So it can happen. No, Brian, you are not trading Jalen Royals, so not even going down that road. Yeah, Wilkins has got some red flags. So that's why with Kristian Wilkins, it's not just a matter of injury and cost. There's a lot to go into it, Joe. You're right. There's a lot going into that decision. Jimmy's, how much of the current lack of D-line depth goes on Veach for continuously kicking the can down the road on FAU and not wanting to admit defeat and move on? I don't know if I'll connect the dots on FAU there completely. I mean, hey, it certainly seemed at least a year or two in for sure that maybe FAU was, once again, I talk about the square pegs in a round hole. Maybe he just wasn't a great fit for the Chiefs defense. Maybe they could have moved on, but once you give up, once you're kind of abandoning a first round pick, you're not going to get quality back. So even if, say after the 24 season, last year, before this year, before the injury, even if you'd decided to make a move at that point and you're, moving on from Felix Anudike-Uzomah, you're not getting great value. I mean, maybe you would have gotten a fifth or a sixth, but I think that's about the best you could do. Maybe you could sweet talk somebody into a fourth, but first round draft picks are I was going to use the analogy of new cars, but even new cars anymore don't lose their value like they used to. But let's say let's say he was a new car in 1996. I mean, once you take them out for a spin, once their first season's under the books, and it's either if they don't perform the way they're supposed to, then their value in the luster comes off quite a bit. You lose a lot of value the moment that player comes off the lot. So, I now that said, I do think there's a legitimate beef that you can have and question that you can have about the amount of resources that Brett Veach has invested in the defensive line in the draft and what their results have been. Because, I mean, Brashad Breeland was a miss, and he was an edge, but that they were going for. Let's see. Trying to remember, he would have drafted Derek Nottie, I guess. I'm going to remember, it was the 18 draft. Thinking that that could have been, was that? No, I thought that was a, now you got me questioning myself because I was thinking about this the other day about all of Brett Veach's defensive line and defensive tackle draft picks. And I was forgetting, I guess, yeah, Derek Nottie was one of them. So that's one I was forgetting to include on the Brett Veach ledger. So, I mean, hey, Derek Nottie, I'll give him value for that because Nottie was third round pick. He's given you 7 really productive seasons. I mean, this is 8th year in KC, maybe not his best year, but he gave you 7 years of Ironman football. I mean, I think he missed 1 game in all that period of time in the regular season. So he gave you a lot of work. But they missed on a couple of others. I mean, the last time before Norman Lott that they took a shot defensive tackle was Keandre Coburn and didn't work with him. And I know by this point, I think Keandre Coburn's been on like 6 teams. So apparently the problem was not you, it was him. But again, you have not come close since Brett Veach became GM of, drafting an heir apparent for Chris Jones. You taking a couple of shots at tight end, trying to draft the heir apparent for Travis Kelce. We'll see if you got one of those guys. But Norman Lott, it was your kind of stab, and now you've had some bad luck with that injury there. That could really hurt from just a poor luck standpoint. But no, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that there's some concerns that the Chiefs didn't put enough draft resources into the defensive line, and that their picks that they made didn't pay off. And now, once again, I'm always going to give the Chiefs and Brett Veach a pass on 2023. I don't know what they would have done differently. I don't know if there's anything that they could have done differently. I mean, unless you just really, really went out on a limb. I mean, in 2020 hindsight, because I don't know anybody. There might have been a few people, but unless you can bring me the receipts and show me, unless you were saying Sam Laporta at the last pick in the draft, as that was the one thing you could say, and I'll buy it. But otherwise, there wasn't a whole lot the Chiefs could do at that spot. And would Brett Veach have loved to have traded out of the last spot in the 2023 draft? Yeah, but he couldn't do that. Not with the draft in Kansas City. And should they have taken Felix Anudike-Uzomah? I mean, would the team be better if they? I'm still going to say I think that Felix Anudike-Uzomah I think would be a better player if he had not been taken in the first round. I think it was just a bad confluence of events. Maybe he'd be a different player. Maybe he'd be a different player in a different team. I don't know. Maybe it was just a tough spot for him to be in. But I'll always give him a free pass for that. But I do think there's legitimate complaints about just how many resources they put into D-line and what production that they've got out of the picks that they have made. And R-Dub's not sure. You were asking about Trey Smith, and we did talk about Trey Smith earlier, but you were talking about worried going further into the season. I will say the only thing about the Trey Smith injury that is on my radar at all that worries me is because it's a back injury, and back injuries for linemen are scary AF. And I'm not talking about scary and fun. They are scary. So hope for the best. Hope that this was just his back locked up. I mean, we've all been there. We've all had some, hey, wait a minute, back's not feeling good. Next morning, not good. And then, 2 days later, you're fine. So he's going to get treatment. You're going to hope everything pops out well with that. You be grateful you got the bye week coming up in a couple of weeks, in a couple of games, so that he can sit out and get some rest there too. Like I said, I have not heard anything at this point to suggest that it's something long-term or worrisome, but I'm always worried about back injuries and big guys until I'm assured that they're not an issue. Doctor Who, no, Nick would never do anything like that. Pano, why would any team want Josh Williams? He never brings anything impactful. I mean, that's why I say, I mean, you can't expect great value for Josh Williams. I mean, he has got a lot of athleticism. He's got a lot of height. There are going to be teams, and I'm sure there are teams out there that think that, hey, they got the system and the coaching that could make Josh Williams work. He was always a guy that was drafted with the concept that he's got probably a low floor but a really high ceiling. There was a wide range of outcomes as far as what kind of player that he could be. So I mean, I would not be surprised if there's teams out there that thinks they could fix him. Could you get huge value? No. I mean, that's why I say that if you're trading Josh Williams for a player, you would be getting the Josh Williams of the defensive line for another team. So somebody who doesn't play a lot and is on the outskirts and outside and just can't crack the lineup. I mean, Josh, his only problem has been consistency. And if some team thinks that they can crack the code and make him more consistent, they'll take a chance. But that's why I say, I mean, it's always when you as a fan want to trade a player and move on from a player, the other side knows that, and they know why you want to move on from that player, and they're not going to think any more of that player necessarily than you do. So they're not gonna, it's just the age old, you're not going to be able to trade your trash for treasure. You can't like take all your players that you don't like and say, hey, we'll ship these to you for the number one pick. Not going to work. John, D-line from the practice squad. I think unless there was anybody missing, I think I rattled them all off earlier. You've got Marlon Tuipulotu. You got Broderick Martin, a defensive tackle. Zach Pickens, which I believe is more of a defensive end, if I'm not mistaken. And let me see if there's anybody else that I am neglecting and missing. I'm sure my memory's not faulty. You got Janarius Robinson, who's a defensive end as well. Actually, he's on. Oh, excuse me. That's the guy from the Raiders that's on injured reserve, not coming back this year. So ignore me. I did not say that. Ethan Downs is a defensive end. Tyreek Smith, defensive end. And that's your ball game there. Yeah. Zach Pickens, defensive tackle. I said I wasn't sure if he was a D tackle. He is a D tackle. But Martin and Pickens are really your two guys who are the prototypical, run stuffing middle of the line kind of guys. Pickens is 6'4", 303. Marlon Tuipulotu is listed at 307, and I say this with all of the respect in the world to Marlon Tuipulotu, and as a fellow big guy whose driver's license has rarely been right about his weight. If Marlon Tuipulotu weighs 307, I weigh 180. There's just no way, bless that man's heart, that he is 307. And there's nothing wrong with that because he is paid to be a mountain man in the middle of a defensive line, and I've got no issues with that. But that 307 had to have been put on his NFL profile in high school and has just never changed. So I say that facetiously. He might very well be 307. I sincerely doubt it. But he's a big guy, and there's no problem with that because he's paid to be a big guy. Albert, no chance Jaden Daniels plays on Monday night, right? I'm never going to say never. I mean, let's see what happens. It certainly doesn't sound great. Sounds like he might need some time off, and if that's the case, I mean, I know Mariota's had some success so far this season. I mean, didn't have much the other day coming in relief, but that game was kind of wash. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to count anybody out. Chiefs are going to prepare both ways, and you got to be concerned. But it certainly seems like the early word from Washington is that, that this might be a tough week for him to come back that quickly, and that he's going to need a little more time. But you got to prepare both ways. Our Dubs, you see the Chiefs running any special 13 personnel since they're looking pretty sweet at the tight end position? Hey, they do whip it out occasionally. I mean, generally it's been in a lot of some short yardage situations, but honestly, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Now we're probably going to see even less of it now that they're full strength at receiver. Although you still saw a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on Sunday against the Raiders, and I said this, and I don't have my numbers in front of me. I can't remember it off the top of my head if it was 4 or 5 snaps in which the Chiefs had Worthy, Rice, and Brown all on the field at the same time. So we were talking about what it's going to be like when they get all those guys on the field, and they only had them on the field like 4 times. And one of those downs didn't count because there was a Raiders penalty. So there was only 3 or 4 plays that they had him on the field. I know one was a Patrick Mahomes scramble for 3 yards. One was an incompletion. There was an Xavier Worthy catch for 12 yards. I think there might have been another incompletion. So they had those guys on the field for like 4 plays that counted, and they got 15 yards. So you could argue in a way that the Chiefs were less effective when they had all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time than they were the rest of the game when they had them all rotating in and out. So just one of those crazy things that I keep track of. Doctor Who, what's Frank Clark up to? I bet Chris Jones has his number. I know Chris Jones has his number. I think Chris has given up on that dream of Frank ever coming back. Hey, maybe in January, get ready for the playoffs. And you need some help. Maybe then you call Frank Clark, because tell you what, you look at the numbers. Frank Clark and George Karlaftis might be 2 of the best postseason defensive ends ever. George has been ridiculously productive. That was obviously Frank Clark's calling card, was that he showed up when the lights were on in the postseason. So that's when you bring it back. Jimmy's, I'm terrible with, I'm terrible with unfinished stories. I'm telling you, I'm the absolute worst right now. Yeah, I'm at least I have. This is why I'm dedicated to making sure I get through the Q&As, no matter how long it takes. And I know I'm already like 2:12 tonight. No matter what it takes to get through them, because this I can finish. Yeah, I've got way too many unfinished stories on my laptop. It's a problem. I have serious issues, Jimmy. There is no doubt about it. Nikki, would a veteran like Campbell have to clear waivers if he were released? Only after the trade deadline, Nikki. After the trade deadline, before the trade deadline, if a player like Campbell, a veteran with more than 4 years of experience, is released, they become a free agent immediately. After the trade deadline, everybody in the league has to go through waivers if they're released. So, yeah, if the Cardinals didn't trade Calais Campbell before November 4th, and then November 12th decided to release him, he would have to go through waivers, in which case any team in the league could claim him and his contract. Now, the trick is obviously that you do with like what happened when Terrell Suggs got released and became available, which also was the Cardinals, I believe, that ended up releasing him at his request. He just makes it clear, hey, if you're not in the playoff race, I'm not showing up, so don't claim me. I don't know if Calais Campbell would do that, because Calais Campbell's like notoriously facetiously, like considered one of the best guys in the NFL. I mean, he's just considered one of the great all around guys in the league. So I can't imagine him necessarily doing that, but I also can't imagine a non-playoff team claiming him, because they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do him dirty like that. You guys are having like I think a Lord of the Rings conversation here that I am just not going on with. Yeah, Bill, everybody else, if you want, go back to just when we're done, go back to the very beginning, and you'll get my full monologue on Josh Simmons. The Cliff Notes version, no, we don't know anything new, so nothing has changed on that front. We're coming to the end, getting close to the end now. So, I have not missed any more super chats. I'm 3 for 3 on super chats tonight. So Jesus and All Chiefed Up and And dog patter, I feel pretty good. I feel like I had a good night there. Thank you all very much for the super chats, and I'm glad I did not let you down tonight. Let's see. Yeah. The Tano, the TK get released for the Bears today. I would be surprised if TK came back to the Chiefs. Let's just say I'd be surprised. Nothing wrong with TK. He was a really good dude, all around good guy. I mean, I feel like the Bears, though, they're a good enough team that if they thought that Passanio was still productive enough to help, I don't think they would let him go. So I don't know if he would be a great fit with the Chiefs. So I think that's one of the players that liked, but I think that the door is probably closed on that one. But you never know. Mitchell, any concern that these O-line injuries, missing person could derail the beautiful thing the Chiefs have going on the offense? I mean, certainly hasn't right now. And I mean, the next thing you're worried about, obviously, is Trey Smith. I mean, if you had to play without Trey Smith for a little while, would it be concerning? Yeah, but I mean, Mike Caliendo played pretty well in that regard. And I'll tell you what, I mean, certainly if you have another issue at tackle, I mean, your next guy up is Wanya Morris, and Wanya has. I want to be generous here, at least there, Wanya. I think Wanya has played well in short stretches. Wanya's challenge has so far been playing well for extended stretches. If you had to play with Wanya for a week or 2, 3, I think you would be okay. And now maybe Wanya's worked past that. Maybe he's to the point now that if he got another chance, a 6-week run or a 10-week run, maybe he would be better than that. Who knows? And I'm a big Hunter Norzad fan. If Mike Caliendo's filling for Trey right now, if Norzad had to fill in for somebody on the interior, I think that would be okay. I think the Chiefs are a lot better depth-wise on the O-line than they have been for a while. Now, if you had to go much further than that down the depth chart, I mean, if you had to go past your top 8, then sure, any team's going to get challenged. But I mean, from what we have seen so far from Jalen Moore, and especially what you saw from him against the Raiders, and I get it, it was the Raiders. The Raiders are the Raiders. The fact that he did it in back-to-back games, and he did it without the adrenaline of that week 1, just the juice, I'm sure, that was there of him getting to play and getting to go out there, but then being able to back that up against the Raiders and not having what looked like any type of a letdown, I was really encouraged by. And I mean, let's face it, I mean, it's not like Jalen came in here as a terrible player of some sort. He just didn't play a lot because he was playing behind Trent Williams, and when he filled in for Trent Williams, he played pretty well. So he just wasn't as good as Trent Williams. So, I mean, that's a high standard. So that's why I mean, this certainly looks like, and when we go back and look at this at the end of the season and everything like that, and look at it in retrospect, I mean, you're probably going to end up, thinking that, especially from this year's left tackle free agent market, my goodness, Brett Veach signing Jalen Moore looks like an absolute move of genius, because there were left tackles that paid a lot more money that are not playing anywhere nearly as well as Jalen Moore has the last couple of weeks. Jimmy's Dolphins have any D-line candidates? Good question. Let's look at the Dolphins real quick. When I say real quick, I mean, it's going to be more than 30 seconds, which would be a bad thing for lightning round. So I guess it's a good thing that we're not doing lightning round right now. Pull up the Dolphins list to see if there's anybody I can remember and their cap hits and all that kind of fun stuff. Let's see here if there's anybody that I like. Too young, team control. I mean, Bradley Chubb is probably going to be available. A lot of people like Bradley Chubb. I don't. I just think he's better suited for a 3-4. So I don't think that he would be great in the Spags system. What is Chubb's? And of course, trying to look at his size, and I click on the wrong page to get his size, apparently. But I mean, he is much more of a 3-4 size guy, and at least skill set wise. 6'4", 268. I mean, that's shorter than Frank Clark, but Frank Clark kind of weight size. I mean, I could see it. I just think you want a little bit more size there in a 4-3 system. I mean, Chubb's just a little bit more of a stand-up outside guy, so I don't think he'd be a great fit. I mean, the Chiefs have had maybe a couple of opportunities to consider him in the past that have never really gone down that road. 33, I don't think I would consider Matt Judon, even though it's a doable contract. But again, I mean, I think you'd be looking for somebody that's can at least challenge Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana for snaps. I mean, if you're just looking for somebody to come in and be Ashton Gelati, you have Ashton Gelati. So, you know, you're going to bring somebody in more productive than that. I mean, at just the quick glance, I know Kenneth Grant's been thrown out there as a possibility, but I don't think that's with team control and everything like that. I don't think that makes any sense for the Dolphins. I don't even know why that I've seen that name mentioned about. That's just lunacy. No, I mean, no, that's just crazy. Nobody really stands out. I mean, now the Dolphins, you're talking about trade wise, running backs galore. Yeah, you'll get some of those. So yeah, let's go out on the lookout for that. Day-Day-O. I hope I did that right. Thank you for all the info on Twitter. And you had the question about the best experience at Arrowhead. I'm so glad that you had a great experience. That is great to hear. Yeah, tell if you got time, tell us in the chat. You know, if there was anything that kind of stood out. I hope you, if you got a chance to see the Hall of Fame, I hope you enjoyed that, because I think that is one of the best features at Arrowhead is the Team Hall of Fame. What the renovated one that they've done the last couple of years is amazing. I guess that was probably in 21, maybe 22. I know it was after COVID that they opened it. It's awesome. It's so amazing, and it's different from time to time, because obviously if you saw the Kingdom documentary, you know that the Chiefs, and many of you already knew this, the Chiefs have that storage in the caves over under Worlds of Fun and Subtropolis and everything, that is a treasure trove of not just Chiefs history, but the AFL history and everything that Lamar collected and stored and has held on to. And so there's always new things coming in and out of there. That's why it's like every time you go, you're probably going to see something a little bit different. I think it's just fantastic what they did with that. One of the best things that the Chiefs have ever done is that Hall of Fame. So hope you got a chance to see that. You had great weather for that game, so I hope you really enjoyed it. And time for the Chiefs to get some DT help. You wish for Jeffrey Simmons, but no, it isn't realistic with the cap space. Love the show. Thank you so much for the super chat, Day-Day-O. I hope I'm getting that right. It's very kind of you. I'm so glad that you and your nephew had a great time at the game the other day. Hope any of my tips helped out a little bit. And like I said, I mean, you got a great game to go check out. The weather for that one was just wonderful fall weather. So glad you were able to get out there and enjoy it. That was and you got a great game too. That was fantastic. Bill, you kind of touched a little bit on the last question. We're dealing with D tackle help and Jeffrey Simmons. Cost is the biggest stumbling block. It really is. I mean, it's just the Chiefs would have to free up somewhere between $7 and $8 million have available of cap space just for the rest of the season. I think there's problems beyond that too. I mean, there will be one argument is going to be that, hey, you can get the Titans to keep a little bit of salary. Sure, you can do that. You can get them to keep a little bit of salary because I owed 17.5 the rest of the way. So I guess I should probably have said it's probably going to be more like 8.5, maybe, depending on when the trade and the prorated version. I mean, it's going to be in that $8 to $9 million range for the prorated. You could get the Titans to eat some of that, but in order for the Titans to do that, you're going to have to give them better draft pick. So you're going to have to up that a little bit more. He has 2 more years on his contract. Nothing's guaranteed, but the cap hits for those years for the Chiefs, based on everything, would be about one would be 2.6 and 26, and then 23.5 and 27 would be interesting. I mean, pairing him for Chris Jones for next 2.5 years could be really interesting if you could find a way to afford the next couple of seasons. And like I said, I mean, the next couple of seasons, I mean, that's is a problem, and there's no doubt about that. But you would have to just free up some money this year, and there's going to be a problem. I mean, if he's going to be made available, which there's now some word I hear from Tennessee is that maybe they're not going to trade him. Now, that's usually what a team says before they want somebody to blow their doors off. My concern is that, what they're asking for is a 1, and they're hoping for like a 2 and a 5. And if that's the case, and you're the Chiefs, and then you're like, well, hey, Titans, will you also take some of that money off because we need to pay him a little bit less too on the salary cap? Well, then you're probably talking more like a 2 and a 3. I mean, if that's the asking price for Jeff Simmons, I just don't know that that's available, for the Chiefs. And then you got to have the conversation about some of the flags. I mean, there's going to be that conversation too. So, and then you would say and think and hope that the relationship that Brett Veach has with Mike Borgonzi would cut through some of the red tape. It's certainly, hey, they're going to have similar views on draft pick value, so you're not going to have necessarily those issues. They got a shorthand. All those things would be good. But at the same time, Mike Borgonzi can't be showing off any signs that, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing a favor for my old team here and giving somebody away at below market value. Sometimes that makes things more difficult to get things done. I think that there were probably some opportunities that the Chiefs have had to make some trades in the past with some former GMs that maybe didn't get done for exactly that reason, that there was, some sentiment that if you got a deal done with the Chiefs, that it was going to be perceived as doing a favor for your old friends, and guys that brand new GMs don't want to have that reputation. So could that be a holdup? Is it just like 5% of the equation? Maybe, but it can absolutely be a part of the equation. I just think for a lot of reasons, it would be very difficult to get the Jeffrey Simmons thing done. And for the Chiefs, I think it's a lot of cost, both short-term and long-term, that they can't necessarily afford. And then there's the issue of just, does everything make sense? Well, would he work in Kansas City and not maybe? I mean, there's been some questions in the past. So a lot of things to figure out there. I just don't know if it's worth it with all of the hot hoops and hurdles that the Chiefs would have to go through to get something like that done. R-Dubs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, gosh, is Mike Pennell actually on the active roster right now? That was my understanding. I could be wrong. So let me just double check it and make sure. If he is on the practice squad, absolutely. I mean, you can snatch anybody off a practice squad that you want to. I mean, now the team that you're snatching him from can always promote them to the 53 to keep them. Just double checking here real quick, make sure I'm not crazy. Where are you, Mike? What's going on? Yeah, Mike is on the active roster for the Bengals right now, so wouldn't be an issue of taking him out the practice squad. I mean, you'd have to make a trade, and after the Chiefs already let him go for free and traded for Derek Nottie that they let walk away for free, I don't know if Brett Veach can afford another one of those deals. And let's face it. I mean, I think from the loyalty social media campaign that Mike went on after leaving Kansas City, I don't know if this would be his first choice at coming back now. I think there might be some hard feelings there. I don't know, but it's certainly based on the social media. I would think that there might be some hard feelings to work through, but there are other options. And I mean, the Chiefs did what they did. I don't know if it worked out the way that they thought it would, but we'll see. Jimmy, so we'll take the roster spot for Omar. It has gone to Kevin Knowles. Kevin Knowles signed up from the practice squad to the 53 today. So that's at least that roster spot. We'll see if any others open up in the next week or two. But for now, the Chiefs, if they're going to, will use some practice squad elevations on defensive tackles, and I would imagine that would be the case. I mean, they've got a couple, obviously, in Broderick Martin and Marlon Tuipulotu that they've got a couple of. They've only called those guys up once. They got 2 more on each of them, so there's 4 weeks of some defensive tackles, and like I mentioned, Zach Pickens too, a little bit different flavor. I mean, he's more of a pass rush guy than the other 2 are, but you've got some options there, at least for the next month. And certainly through the trade deadline to get you through without Omar. Uncle Charlie, Matt, are you in a monastic formation, or is that an early Halloween costume? Monastic. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Now that I know where you're going with a monastery, asking because with your beard and the color of your hoodie, you're giving me a monk-like vibe. I hadn't really thought about that. This is just my black hoodie that, I like, and it's pretty comfortable. I would like to think that I look more like a Jedi. That would really be the look that I'm going for. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to look like Darth Maul, but I would like to think that at least I could pull off, Luke Skywalker, Force Awakens kind of vibes or something like this, or at least Obi-Wan Kenobi, A New Hope. That would be at least what I was probably more like what I was going for than the monk-like vibe. I'd love to be a monk, but I don't think I've got the temperament for that. But thank you for asking. Beach 303. You think Malik Collins would be worth trading for? Haven't been asked about Malik, so let me check out his situation, see what's going on there. If I can type his name correctly, which I think, because I'm pretty sure you did. Let's see. We got a potential out after this year, 1.25 million base, cheap next year. Obviously, it's still I was gonna say it's Browns love their void years. He's got 1 more year, which he's a very cheap player. Let's see. He'd be doable for me. I mean, just looking at the numbers and everything like that, and I'm assuming he hasn't been injured in the last few days, so that would be a potential. I mean, again, you're looking for affordable options, and he'd be one. So I'd put him on the list, kick the tires, and see what you got. Oh man, he's got an option bonus for next year. That's not a deal breaker because it's an out after this year. The option bonus would probably make me, see this as a rental for half a season. So I would want that consideration in the compensation. So I wouldn't give away a lot of money for him. But yeah, assuming that this all looks accurate and there's no, as long as there's not anything tricky in there that I'm not seeing, because it looks like most of the cost honestly would be borne by the Browns. Doesn't have much base salary, 1.25 million in base salary. So you're talking about the Chiefs end of it would be like 600,000. Sure. I just wouldn't give up a lot, because I would be viewing that as absolutely a rental. because I wouldn't be interested in picking up that option for next year. But yeah, I'd put him on the list, but wouldn't have any problems there. And he so far has had some productive numbers for the Browns, so no issues there. And the Browns absolutely should be sellers. I don't know if what their mindset is, but they should be looking to pick up any draft picks that they can. Not that they'll probably work out for them, but they should definitely be moving on. Michael, how about Dalvin Cook on offense and restructure a contract to bring Aaron Donald out of retirement? I think we've been down that road before. I mean, you want to bring back LaShawn McCoy too? Yeah. And now, granted, Aaron Donald could probably come out of retirement today and still be the second best defensive tackle in the league. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. Though I think he's lost a lot of weight, even though he didn't weigh very much to begin with. But yeah, I think that's see, this is the thing that worries me about anytime, you want to talk about midseason acquisitions and everything, because tell me the last midseason acquisition for the Chiefs that really did anything. I mean, I think statistically, the most successful offensively, honestly, was DeAndre Hopkins last year. And DeAndre Hopkins, by I think most accounts, was a very disappointing midseason acquisition. Maybe the biggest, at least, acquisition for 2 plays was Kadarius Toney. And if he had just been a 1-year acquisition, that would have been great. He just never really, obviously panned out to be anything in Kansas City. But again, even his midseason acquisition, he gave you 2 plays. Now, admittedly, one of those plays, maybe 2 plays, won you a Super Bowl. So I'm still not going to badmouth the Kadarius Toney trade, because I don't know if without Kadarius Toney, you win the Super Bowl. He made a play to help you win the darn thing. So yeah. But those past journeys, Le'Veon Bells and everything like that. Even if we're just talking about guys that aren't actually possibilities, but this worries me about anybody that's an old retread. Calais Campbell's about the only old retread that I would really be interested in, because he just continues to be Calais Campbell. Will Veach pay a cornerback? McDuffie. I mean, well, paid Kristian Fulton, but it hasn't worked out so far. I'll tell you what, I mean, this year it's been giving me vibes that the Chiefs might not pay McDuffie, because I think that in some ways that some of the few deficiencies that Trent McDuffie has, I think, have shown up this year a little bit. And I think that might have put the Chiefs off a bit about, investing in Trent McDuffie long-term. I mean, if their intention is to make Trent McDuffie a slot corner and be 75% of the time be a slot corner, that's great. The only problem is that Trent McDuffie wants to be paid like an outside corner. Trent McDuffie wants to be paid like one of the highest corners in the league. Probably, would be on the open market. And that's the catch, is that a guy like Trent McDuffie is going to be probably more value on the open market than he would be to a team to keep. And I say that as being, I think Trent McDuffie, I think the world of him. I think he is just one of the toughest, smartest players that I've ever seen. I think he's one of the best teammates that I've ever seen. And there are so many respects, he is one of the best corners that I've ever seen. Problem is that he's not very big, and teams are learning how to attack that. And I think that's going to be a problem going forward. I didn't necessarily believe that truly 6 to 12 months ago, but I think it's starting to get to be a problem. And we'll know this off season, because if you're going to sign Trent McDuffie, you're better off doing it sooner than later. If you are going to trade Trent McDuffie, you are better off doing it sooner than later. So if you're the Chiefs, this offseason's the time to get it done. You either sign McDuffie to a long-term deal, or you trade him now and get his peak value in trade. But you can't wait. You can't wait until after the draft. You can't do anything like that. I mean, this is something that needs to be done before the draft. And I don't know what they're going to do. some of it's going to certainly depend on Trent McDuffie. I mean, if he doesn't want to get paid $30 million a year, then maybe you can work something out. But I don't know. I've become increasingly, I don't want to say negative because that's not really the case. I just am less positive. Maybe that's the best way to put it. I'm just less optimistic and positive that the Chiefs are going to keep McDuffie in the long term. And I mean, like I said, I'm not necessarily a fan of that because I think the world of him, but I can understand from a football standpoint that if you're concerned that he's primarily a slot corner who plays pretty good on the outside, even if he is the best slot corner in the league, slot corners just don't get paid like outside corners, and that's going to be the decision that the Chiefs have to make, and what they think that they've got in Trent McDuffie. See, this is once again why Nick says that the Q&As go way overboard. And we've set a record now. We're in record territory right now. Michael, who would you have as the next head coach? And if defense-minded coach, who is the offensive coordinator? I mean, I have no idea because, I mean, I'm assuming that Matt Nagy is not sticking around for 5 years if Andy Reid indeed stays until 2030. So I mean, I would think if you're betting on who the odds are about who the next head coach is, I mean, Matt Nagy would probably be your odds-on favorite, even if like I said, I just don't think he's going to be, because I think that I think that he's got to think that Andy Reid's going to stick around to the end of his contract, and that's the case. And Matt Nagy probably doesn't want to wait 5 years for the chance that he's going to, if he wants to be a head coach and he gets an offer this year, he's going to have to leave, and don't think he's coming back after that. I think the door will be closed. I'm not sure there's a really obvious choice. I think that the odds makers would probably then say that Mike Kafka might be the next guy in line as the most obvious choice, unless, once again, I mean, he gets a head coaching job before Andy leaves. After that, it gets a little dicey. I mean, especially, I mean, if you're talking about, this job opening up in the next 2 to 3 years, that's why I say, I mean, that'd be Matt Nagy and Kafka would probably be at the top of your list. Could Spags be in the conversation if it was in the next 2 or 3 years? Sure. 5 years, I don't know if any of those guys are in the conversation. So 5 years, I don't know. I mean, and at that point, it's probably going to be either somebody who's new to the organization in the next few seasons, maybe comes in as a coordinator, replaces Matt Nagy. I don't know who. I don't know that the next, if Matt Nagy were to leave, I'm not 100% sure who would be the next offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. If that would be somebody in the organization, or they'd go outside. I don't know, Mike. That's a tough one for me. I'm not sure I've got a really, really good answer for you on that one. Maybe my brain's too fried from the Q&A tonight. So I wish I could give you a better answer than that. But I really think, especially if Andy stays the next 5 years, it could be almost anybody. It really, really could, because I mean, there's a lot of guys that I think could come and go on the coaching staff in the next 5 years. And, Spags will be 70, close to it maybe in 5 years. So I don't know if that's necessarily I don't know if he wants to be a head coach again at 70. I don't know if that'd be a great choice for him or what he really wants to do. I mean, a lot of guys on the staff could be gone by then. Even offensive guys. I mean, there's young guys. I mean, maybe you could take a flyer, get a really good odds on Joe Blameyer or something. That might be your way to go. But I really don't know. I mean, like I said, if Andy stays 5 more years, all bets are off. I have no idea who will be the next head coach of the Chiefs, unless like I said, unless Matt Nagy at some point makes a offensive coordinator and coach in waiting kind of a deal. That might be the only possibility. Let's see why. I know we're getting to the end, folks. If you have stuck around here from the very, very beginning, you are a trooper. And you are all the best. I'm gonna have to chapter. I'm gonna have to chapter this one tonight just to make sure that anybody who wants to come in here can find out what they're looking for. Nikki, great question. Do you think that the Chiefs having ONL, Omar Norman Lott, put on weight contributed to his injury? Let's also go back to, there's still some dispute about whether the Chiefs wanted Omar Norman-Lott to put on weight or not, and if there was some confusion there. It's not entirely clear whether Omar Norman-Lott thought he was supposed to put on weight, maybe just misunderstood things. Who knows? Now, people that I talk to in athletic training circles will absolutely say that they think that there's no doubt to the weight training, the weight that he put on probably contributed to the injury in some way. And, I don't know that for certain. Now he told us not too long ago that he was pretty much close back down to his normal weight, his combine weight at least, or his maybe OTA weight. So he was, kind of pretty close back down to where he wanted to be. So can you still blame it if he was down to 303 or something? I think that's where he said he wanted to be, and I think he was up over 315, 320. I want to say was the discussion at some point that maybe he was about. Hey, if he took off 15 pounds, was the weight still a problem? I don't know. Like I said, I mean, some of the people, and these are not this is not Chiefs. These are not team employees that are telling me this. This is just people I've talked to that in the athletic training circles, like I said, that will tell you that the weight probably certainly was a factor. But then again, I mean, you never know. I mean, non-contact injuries can happen to anybody at any time. So your mileage may vary, Nikki. And you're still curious as to whether to meet up at the Commanders game is your place and time. Maybe we should try. Anybody else going to the Commanders game? I'll tell you what. I'll put something. Tell you what, Nikki. Let's do this. I will see if I can find a time that I can sneak away and some spot in the stadium. And if we can schedule it, I'll put up but what I'm going to do, I'll put up a discussion in the community section that we'll actually use here on the YouTube channel. So we can kind of go about it that way. And then it can just be all of us, and we don't have to open it up to the free world on Twitter and get out of control. But let's do it that way. So I'm going to put a pin in this one. I'm starring it, Nikki. Let's see if we can't put something together. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I will see what I can do. And if we can make it happen, Nikki, I appreciate you asking about that. That's very kind of you. Michael, how about the Bucs undrafted rookie, the 464-pound Florida State guy, the ultimate 400-pound outlier? That to me, somebody else can deal with that experience. I mean, hey, I'm a big guy. I was never that big. I mean, I was never quite that big. But I got a soft for the big guys. But nah, somebody else can deal with that. I don't think anybody. I don't think Spags wants or Joe Cullen wants anything to do with that. I don't think that's their jam. Jesus, did the Broncos win? Did the Giants lose? Giants definitely lost. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You definitely have to say that they lost. That one. I thought the Giants had that one. So I don't know what to say about that. We talked about. I know we were talking about that a little bit earlier, but I still don't know. One, I mean, the Giants, I just don't know how you can let that game get away from you so many times. And the Broncos, honestly, I mean, I give them credit for scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter, but still, how do you get into a fight like that with the Giants of all people? I mean, that just should have been an easier battle. So let's see. Why would the Chiefs have passed on Joey Porter Jr. in the 2023 draft? I mean, why would they, or why did they? I mean, I still would say obviously why did they was that Felix Anudike was a player that they liked. Was he higher on their board than Joey Porter Jr.? If you take Brett Veach at his word, he will say that yes, Felix Anudike-Uzomah was higher on their board than Joey Porter Jr. Was in theory higher on their board than Sam Laporta, tight end, was higher on their board than Rasheed Rice. I still think there's a reasonable. I still think without the red flags, and those issues, which they were significant, obviously, now that we know in retrospect, I think all things being equal, I think that if it weren't for the red flags, I think the Chiefs would have taken Rasheed Rice at the last pick in the 2023 draft. They just couldn't, not with the red flags. They couldn't do that. They could have taken Joey Porter Jr. They could have. I'm going to take them at their word that they actually did have Felix Anudike-Uzomah ahead of Joey Porter Jr. Is that legitimate? Is that Brett Veach? It's not like he said that he's told us that in retrospect. That was what the Chiefs were indicating at the time. So, now was that, were they do? Here's the thing. I don't believe that the Chiefs. Let's put it this way. I believe that the Chiefs picked in the first round of that draft because it was in Kansas City. I think they were doing that. I don't think that they picked Felix Anudike-Uzomah because he was the local kid. I do believe, I don't think they would ever put that above football. So do I feel that Clark Hunt wanted Brett Veach to take a pick that night and not send everybody home from the first round of the draft with the Chiefs trading the last pick? Yeah, I'm going to buy into that conspiracy. I'm always going to believe that trading that pick was never an option, that the Chiefs had to take a player there. I am never going to believe that they took a player that they thought was inferior to someone else just because he was local. I don't think they would ever do that. I think it's always going to be football first. So I think they took the player that they thought would help them the most in the long term. It didn't work out. Joey Porter Jr., good choice. Could have worked out. Sam Laporta would have been the next, he would put him and Travis Kelce on the field for a few years. And then when Travis moves on and Sam Laporta is that guy, that would have been a really good pick too. There's even a difference, but taking, that's the crazy thing. There would have probably been people who said that the Steelers were great taking Joey Porter at 32, who thought that the Chiefs would have been crazy to take him at 31. That's insane to me, but there are people who absolutely would have probably tried to make that argument. Like I said, Michael, I'm always going to believe that the Chiefs, at the end of the day, put football above all else. Did they necessarily put football above all else by making a pick that night rather than trying to trade it? Might be the exception to the rule, but I'm gonna give them that. I don't think they took Felix because they thought it was a good story. I think that they took him because they thought that he was a good football player that would fit and that they could coach him up. And obviously, it just didn't work out the way that they did. Nikki, any word on Ethan Driscoll? Ethan is he's back with the team. He is still on the non-football illness list. Probably will be for a little while. Remember, he had the appendectomy during the training camp. So, but I had a chance to talk to him. He's in really good spirits. Hoping to talk to him a little bit more about the whole thing. But the Chiefs have some arcane rules about players talking on the record when they are on injured reserve or a non-football illness list, and I'm trying currently to navigate that a little bit so you can hear a little bit more about Ethan's story and how he's doing. But I can at least tell you that he's back with the team, back in the locker room, and seems to be doing really, really well health-wise. So we'll see if there's some point that he might be able to return. He's reached the point 6 weeks where he could be designated to return from the non-football illness list, but looks like it'll still be a while that they wait to just get his strength up, and probably needs to. He looks pretty good size. He might just still need to be putting on some good weight, some weightlifting weight, some muscle and everything. But Ethan looks in pretty good shape, and he's doing very well. So he's glad to be back. D. Jones, do you think there's any circumstance where the Chiefs would trade Minshew to a quarterback needy team? I don't think so. I really don't. And again, if I think they were going to give away Gardner Minshew, I think they would want a pretty good sum. I just don't think they want to do it because I think they like him as being able to be the guy that if they needed to lean on for a couple of weeks to keep the show running, they trust him, and I think they like what they have in the quarterback room. And let's face it, if you traded Gardner Minshew and you got your next man up is Chris Oladokun, There's no next man up after that. So I don't think Gardner Minshew's going anywhere. Martine, do you think they are keeping Fulton off the field healthy to use him as a swap for a DT? Maybe a crazy thought, but why not ask? They're not using him. They aren't. You're right, Martine. And yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier too. It's possible that they are thinking of considering using him as trade bait. Last week was really the first week that he was a truly healthy scratch. We'll see if he is again this week. I can't see anything that's changed significantly that would make me think that he's going to be active this week. But I also think it's difficult to trade a player that nobody has seen play. So I think if the Chiefs want to try and trade him, I think they would have to get him on the field in the next couple of weeks to show some teams what he can do. The other thing is that, you can never have enough depth at those spots, and especially at corner. So if the plan right now is to just get him up to speed on the defense, which he lost a lot of time on both in OTAs and training camp, and that's their plan, I get it. Jimmy's, I don't know what that means, but I think it sounds like something I should believe in there. So I hope that's a good thing. You're always positive and you're saying good things, so I'm trying to go down that road. Took lots of pics of the Hall of Honor. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, and the Hall of Honor is amazing. Yeah, there's a couple of you chiming in there. I think it's, like I said, I think it's one of the best things that the Chiefs have ever done. And it used to be really good, and now since they built a new one, it is fantastic. So if you've never had a chance, even if you can't make it for a game day, go take a tour of the stadium and get that, because it's worth it. It's amazing. Cody, did you see what Worthy is calling the flapping celebration? It's calling the Chiefs wave. Yeah, like I said, if I think Cody, you saw that on the video today that the Chiefs put out. If you haven't all seen that, you can hit their social media their social media channels. You'll see him. He's talking about that and talking about doing the 6-7 celebration. Yep. JK, appreciate the kind words. Yeah, if I had more information that I knew for certain and could share, telling you more about Josh Simmons, I certainly would. But yes, I can tell you that he is safe. Just keep positive vibes for him. I think that would be the one thing that both he and the Chiefs would certainly appreciate. Just think sending those positive vibes and prayers. I'm sure that he would appreciate that. Jesus, are you worried Hollywood is asking Juju what route he has to run? I haven't seen that clip. No, I did see that clip. Yes. No, I don't, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Hollywood was either late to the huddle or didn't hear the call. So I think that's why he was asking. I would be more concerned if like Hollywood was asking where he was supposed to line up. So he knew he was supposed to line up. So he knew enough about the play to know that. And so I think he just didn't hear the call. And in a situation like that, I think that happens a lot more than people realize. And like I said, I'd be more concerned if Juju was having to tell him where to line up. He knew that, so he at least knew that much of the play. But when they spit out, when Patrick splits out those play calls, and we do get to hear them every once in a while. There's a few of them that have some shorthand that everybody just knows because it's just the play. I mean, they know what it is based off of a short play call. But normally, in those instructions, there's the instructions for the offensive line about what their protection scheme is. There's instructions for each, X, Y, Z receiver, what their role is, anybody else, what the run is. I mean, there was everything in there. So what I saw, at least on that video, what it made seem to me like was that Hollywood heard enough of the play, but didn't know what the play generally was. He just didn't necessarily hear his instruction and That's what he was asking Juju about. And I think that happens a lot more than you realize. We just don't always get that insight off the mics and off the videos and everything like that. So no, doesn't worry that much. It worries me a lot more when receivers don't know where to line up, and somebody has to point out to them, tell them where to line up. And I could tell you some stories about that. Although if you've been following myself and Nick long enough, there'll be an Easter egg in there for you that you can probably guess exactly which receiver I'm talking about when I said that they had to be told where to line up a lot. And no, just because anybody else I'm going to cut you off was not Sky Moore. Matter of fact, Sky Moore used to tell this guy where to line up a lot. But I'm going to be a nice guy because it's 3 hours now. All right, Michael, last question. Now that I've completely and totally lost my mind tonight with the 3-hour Q&A, I have no idea how long you've all stuck with me, but some of you are saints for being here till the very, very end. And I see, I don't know if Luttrell left and came back. Casey, Harold, Nikki, I know a lot of you have been there from the very, very beginning tonight. You are troopers putting up with me. Michael, you get the last question. Could the Raiders be posturing to get more draft picks for Matt Crosby? And would you trade 2 1s for him if you were the Chiefs and the Raiders agreed? Ooh. And now Maxx Crosby, who I was thinking of earlier when, because I know that's what the Cowboys supposedly are trying to get Maxx Crosby out of Las Vegas to replace Micah Parsons, which, gosh, it just seems like it would have been a whole lot easier to get straight and everything with Micah Parsons. But that's Jerry for you. I mean, I want to say no to the 2 first-round picks. Just because that's a lot of picks, and I'm just looking to see what kind of disaster the contract would be. I mean, it's got a $32.5 million base this year, so if you were the Chiefs, would probably take more than 2 1s to get the Raiders to eat some of that cost, assuming they could. I have to look at the Raiders cap. I'm sure they could. I mean, they got enough room for it right now. So that'd be like $16 million base, and the Chiefs have like $4 million of cap space. Chiefs could scrounge up some money, but not that much. And then, he's got, for you as the Chiefs, he's got like a 31 and a $30 million cap hit in the next 2 seasons. All of his dead money would be gone. So 28 and 29 would actually be reasonable at 26.5 and 27.4, although he would probably want more money by then if he's still producing. And those are his 31 and 32 seasons. I mean, it's a crazy idea that, I mean, you would be unstoppable, I think. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, that would be pretty crazy. Could you pull it off? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how the Chiefs could shoehorn in another $30 million under the cap next year when I think they're already like $57 million over the cap next year. And now, granted, your quarterback is like $75 million of that. So you're going to rework that a little bit. But I mean, you need cheap, affordable, good players. And I mean, look what you're able to get with your first round this year. I just wouldn't want to give up. Michael, I mean, you've come up with an idea that I can't really shoot down. It's insane. I don't think there's any way in the world it would ever happen. Do I think it's a terrible idea? No. But man, then again, I once wanted to give up 2 number 1s trying to get Joe Alt. So I guess that's, I mean, maybe it's the 3 hours of the Q&A talking to me here, Michael. It's not a terrible idea. Do I think that there is any chance that this could happen? No, because I think Brett Veach's head would explode, and Chris Shea's and Jack Woloff's and everybody's job who it is would be trying to make the salary cap work next year. I just can't imagine trying to make that work. But it's not the craziest idea I've ever heard of. And if it happens, I'm going to give you full credit. Yeah, I just can't imagine it working. I mean, especially the biggest thing was this year, getting that to work. And well, okay, I now know it's not. I mean, it's not going to happen because now that I've used all my brain power here, and somebody in the chat. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of you left. One of you could point it out to me that there's freaking no way that the Raiders are trading Maxx Crosby to the Chiefs. So no, it's not happening. Great idea, totally unworkable. Will never happen. You could give the Raiders 6 first-round picks, and I don't think they're sending Maxx Crosby to Kansas City. So there you go. Well, there's the record, everybody. We will try to never break this. Now that I have tried to do, my shorter Q&As and to have something left in the tank for Thursdays, and now I've managed to do 3 hours tonight, and I am fairly certain that you all got to enjoy it commercial free. So I'm going to really bank on some people coming back to watch this in the next couple of days. So everybody, thank you once again. I truly appreciate it. You are all the best fans in the business. Thank you for those of you who stuck here till the very end. Any of you, and I'm just going to, as the Easter egg at 10:04. Yes, you did correctly answer the trivia question. I'm not going to bash anybody out loud, so I'm just going to tell you that yes, you answered the trivia question correctly. Everybody, have a great week. We will be back on your streams with 41 is the mic early Tuesday morning after the Monday night game against the Commanders. Nikki, I'm going to put up a discussion a little bit later in the on the YouTube, the channel community page, and we'll talk about the game Monday night and see if we can't figure out a little meet and greet. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So everybody have a great week, enjoy yourselves, and we will do all of this again next week.